this is the map that I've been looking at, right? Like, I just realized Google Earth is kind of different. So when I zoom in here, it might show me the metro. There's like a layer for the metro somewhere here. I know there's like a Jamaica station. Someone in chat, please help me. There's a metro line somewhere here. Bottom left to enable it. Well, my bottom... Oh, layers. Wait, no, there we go. There, public... Oh! Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You need to change it to transit map mode. Yeah, I think we just did that. Everstrew, thank you so much for 23 months. Excited to hear about your trip. Also, I hope it'll be interesting. I feel like we're off to a bit of a slow start, you know, because there's like so much waffling to do. Like to set the premise and all that. So yeah, you get out of JFK Airport, you get onto this like shuttle system, which I think is this right here. And then for us, we got on this blue line. So like, all of this, I want to know what all of these places are, but you're underground going into the metro, and it actually goes like right into the heart of Manhattan, near the very famous Times Square. And we were... Now, I didn't remember like what street we were on, but I picked up the street and the avenue system, and it's actually really amazing. Like, the grid system, everyone's probably heard about it, and then you hear Americans in their culture, or just however, you know, a movie or something, oh, you know, 12th Street and 6th, and it's kind of like, what? Like, hey, I'm used to a street having a name, what are you talking about? And now I realize, like, where I live, all the streets have unique names, and it doesn't tell you anything about where it is. Whereas the street names in America, they tell you exactly where it is, and that helps you get around a lot, actually. So, yeah, it's quite amazing. So we stayed in a hotel that was just around the corner. Like, it was near a metro stop, and it was just around the corner from, what do they call it? Times Square? Which is not there. Times Square is somewhere around this spot. Times Square is there. But I seem to remember it being like really close to one of these lines. But yeah, I guess maybe now's a good time for a photo. I've got so many windows open to show you stuff, right? So here's the view from our hotel balcony. Like, when I say balcony, sorry, top of the building. Like, not the room. Go up to the top floor. We're on like floor 5, and this is like floor 33. Sure, street names make sense, but honestly, I prefer to have a beautiful street name than just be better at navigating, says Astan. Well, it depends on the city, right? Like the layout. And I think in this time and age, with phones and technology and Google Maps, you can probably get away without it, right? But, in that day and age, sorry, at least back before phones and all of that, this would have been great for navigating a city. Also, like, I don't live where there's a grid layout, so it's kind of like, it wouldn't make sense to try and give it grid layout-like names, you know? That's an incredible view, X, says Cheeto Lover. Well, incredible views are what the city has everywhere, because it's like this everywhere. Like, in Manhattan, it is just bonkers. I was trying to click over the right for like a next button, but that's not here. In order to like share this all with you, I had to capture. I had to use a browser to like show you the different things on the screen and that. Yeah. So, you know, to the left, to the right, all of that. These are the views. And later on in the day, what did we do on that day? So we arrived. I've got my journal. I made a journal. I was enjoying it so much on like the second day. I was like, I have to document this. Like, this has been so amazing. I don't want to forget the details. There's so many of them, right? Sometimes I think some of the better details though on trips like this are like little things that you see, like the way people move around the city, like the stuff that you almost feel like you can't write about, like all that movement of people and the smells, and sometimes like the graffiti and the litter. Yeah, like when I was journaling, I'm just like writing the bulk things of the day, right? So we got in here and then we went for the Staten Island ferry. So here's tip number 1 for if you're traveling to New York City. Cheeto says, did you go to Coney Island? No, I was with my parents. They don't do roller coasters and stuff. I would have loved to have gone to sort of like I've heard about it so many times, but you know, you have to do things that other people want to do, right? If I go there again, I want to explore the boroughs, and I want to go to Coney Island as well. The city must stink of contamination, says Alpha Legionnaire. The air quality in New York City is known for being really good, and I think the reason why is because of the grid layout. It allows the winds from, there's rivers around it, there's ocean. It allows the winds to, like, you know, flow through the city and keep the air quality good. Because I've been to London, and London, like, when you come out of it, it's a bit ugh sometimes. And there isn't, you know, there isn't the ocean right next door. And if the wind comes in, there isn't like a grid for it to flow down. It just kind of gets caught up, you know. Glad you missed the smoke. It's getting smoky from the wildfires again. Really? We got very lucky then, because a couple of weeks before we heard about the smoke, starting to get worried. You know. Anyway, as I said, tip number 1, the Staten Island is a free ferry system that goes back and forth between Staten Island. It runs 24/7 and runs really frequently throughout the day. If you want to see the Statue of Liberty and you're not worried about being real up close, this is the place to go. And it was on the Staten Island ferry that things really came to life, right? Oh my god, that's so loud! Jesus, I hope that wasn't loud for you. That just burst in my eardrums. This reminds me of going skiing. You can see beautiful pictures of mountains that you can ski down, but it's when you're there that the mountains move. So you've seen pictures of New York City's skyline, but when you're there, like, it slowly moves as you move around it, and that's what's really magical. Wherever you go, it feels like you're always having this unique experience. Like, there's all these different views to look at. Someone fell off their chair. I'm so sorry. That was extraordinarily loud, wasn't it? Extraordinarily loud. We have been raided by the one, the Ozone. The Ozone? Oh, mincing my words. The one, the only chosen architecture. See what I did there? See what I did there? The Ozone, chosen. God, I'm terrible. Thank you so much for the raid, my dude. I know Chosen, obviously, modded Minecraft expert, so for some of you coming over wondering why you're seeing New York City all of a sudden, I'm a Minecrafter. I just had a break in New York City. It was so amazing, I wanted to talk about it. And also, Foofy32, here for 8 months. Excited to hear about your trip. I love the album release as well. Been amazing to write to. Can't wait to just chill. Awesome, my dude. Thank you. Yeah, you know, it's been a crazy year for me. I've had some weird ups and downs. Just other stuff going on in my life that I haven't really talked about. And then going to New York, like off the back of releasing my album. But as I said, we got there and my nan passed away. It's just been like a weird one. But yeah, doing good. Still here, right? So the Staten Island ferry goes past the Statue of Liberty. Oh, that is some super zoom right there. Interestingly, like, this is one of the iconic images that you have of New York City, is Lady Liberty, but she's actually really small compared to the skyscrapers. Those amazing pictures you've seen, they're really well taken to be in the right spot to, like, get Manhattan in the background and make Lady Liberty look quite big. Not that this was underwhelming in any way. It was amazing to see and to think of all the people that have migrated or immigrated to New York and you know, gone past in the boat. Like, it's a huge piece of history. It was amazing to see. But I was just shocked at the actual size of it. And it's sort of closer to New Jersey as well. But we can go look at Google Earth and give you some sense of that. So, like, here's where the zoom comes in. Just, that's like the Bronx area. That tower, Brooklyn, that tower is in the heart of Brooklyn. Then over here's like Long Island, and then that's Manhattan there with the One World Trade Center in the middle. Can y'all see my cursor, by the way? Because I'm pointing at stuff in the image, and I just realized if the cursor ain't there, then that ain't so great. That's the One World Tower right there. So, pro tip, when you come back from Staten Island, if you want to spend about $4, you can get the Midtown Ferry, and it comes up the Hudson River. So on the opposite side to this image is New Jersey. And you, again, that video, like, I wish I'd have maybe taken a few more. Oh God, it's done it again. What a wally, what a goose. That feeling of all the skyscrapers moving, it's mesmerizing when you come down the Hudson River, because, like, it's just, it never stops. Everything keeps moving. It's so cool. It's so cool. Zero says, great picture, really captures the scale. Thank you, thank you. I just want to thank, you know, my phone, because technology is amazing, and I'm just pointing and clicking. Like, I do not know much about taking photos yet. Like, they're decent, and maybe like 30, 40 years ago, a picture like this would be, wow, that's incredible, well done. You know, like, but it's just technology has made it so accessible. It's really amazing for keeping memories, and I'm not much of a photo taker, but I went a little wild, and I've actually cut down on the amount I'm going to show you. I didn't want it to be like crazy overwhelming. But anyway, tip number 1 was go to Staten Island Ferry. It's free, you literally just walk on, and then you can get off at the other end, wander around Staten Island for a bit, which I did, in their little shopping centre. Saw a memorial there. There's also a baseball team if you want to go watch a baseball game, the Staten Island Ferries, or something they're called. Didn't actually watch them, we went to watch the Yankees. But yeah, so that was like day 1, was coming back on the Midtown Ferry, which was totally worth it for $4. And then walked all the way across the big avenue blocks, down the street, you know, past the avenues to our hotel, like a really big walk. So that had been a long day. We had a wake up early, you know, wake up at like 4 in the morning. Flight was at like 7 or something, and then we land like 8 or 9. I can't quite remember it because the hours go back. So the flight is like 6.5 hours, but the time difference is 5. So it was a really long day. And then, you know, got ready for day 2, right? Carl Doom, thanks for gifting a sub to Chosen Architect. Greatly appreciate you doing that. Bam, there's the emote. Vinut says, can't help but wonder how's the jet lag. I'll get to that, because going out there, it was just one tired day in the beginning, and then after that, it was kind of like fine. It was like, we're doing good. Okay, just gonna unroll all these images we got here. Yeah, so Staten Island. Actually, I'm gonna use Google Earth for this bit. So, like, Staten Island, let's see. Totally lost my bearings. So, like, you leave down here at the Battery, and you go past the Governor's Island, down here to, like, Staten Island, this area. Right, that's where the boats come in. There's the baseball that I was telling you about. Here's a little memorial that we went and visited. There might have been more to go see around. They had a football team. Oh, I really wanted to watch a match of football. I don't think it was the season anyway. I would have loved to have gone. This doesn't look like a stadium, though, around. Oh, no, there's seats there. Okay. I really want to go to an American football game. I love American sports so much more, having gone to a few more now. I'll talk about that when we get to that. I got so many stories to tell. Somewhere around here, there's also like a Wu-Tang Clan memorial, which I would have loved to have gone to. Absolutely love Wu-Tang. From Staten Island, of course. So yeah, then we come back up the Hudson River, which is where this New York, New Jersey borderline is right here. And then you pull in somewhere, somewhere up here. Actually, I think it goes up quite a ways. Yeah, before the Intrepid. So, you know, pulled up here and walked through these massive blocks, and like the views are incredible. Now, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, you know? Like, you can do the street level thing. It was around here that there were lots of runners going up and down this bit. And I was joking about going for a run. And then I realised I've actually got all the stuff with me. Like, I've got my barefoot, so I can go for a run. And the next morning when I was stretching, I got cramp in my calf muscle. And I was just like, oh, I'm going to do so much walking. And if I'm getting a cramp, like, I can't go for a run. I went for a run today, though, so I'm good. But, like, I would have loved to have run in New York City and been like, hey, I did that, you know? So yeah, this is what I'm talking about, like the city moves. As you walk through these streets, can I like plump you down? How can I get this, like, when I've used this before, it's like pretty easy to go in a straight line, but right now it's just like, nope. Can I plop you down again? Let's try a little further up. Right, it brought up some blue lines, which I'm thinking might be the roads. So now we're like a vehicle. Yeah, that's more like it. Yeah, so like wherever you are, just towers, incredible views. And then as you go through the city, like they slowly move around you like mountains, right? Little things come into view. I got a nice picture of this spot actually. That right there is like a an old cathedral. They used to be the highest things in the city, but like now they're dwarfed by these incredible skyscrapers. Esperance says Street View can get a little, at least Street View mode, at least in NYC, can sometimes get weird. Yeah. I imagine in most places they can. Like sometimes you're moving through and then all of a sudden like it's a different time of year. But yeah, I just wanna, I wanna let you know like, what the experience is like as much as I can, and Google Earth's such a cool way to do that. Oh, look at this place. And then down here it's really built up as well. This is like the Wall Street commercial district. This is where the Twin Towers used to stand. I went to the memorial and stuff. That was what we did on the second day, I think. So they had a at the hotel they had like a cafe area, and I only ate there a couple of times just because I was kind of like, I don't want to have like cafe hotel food, even though it was decent. I want to go out and explore the American food stuff. But very quickly I learned New York City has a problem. In fact, this is a problem that I thought was a big problem. That's Madison Square Garden. I got to go there as well. We have a problem with disposables, right? And I get sick of like just packaging on all my food, putting it in the bin and just stuff like that. It annoys me. But when I was in New York City, it was on another level. Like, everything is disposable. In the hotel, all of the food that's served in a hotel where they can have a kitchen, they can clean plates, forks and knives, everything was packaged. Even your butter. They didn't put butter on a side so you could cut a slice. Everything was in disposable packaging. All the cutlery was plastic, and it all came in sachets that had napkins attached. Like, sometimes it's convenient to use plastic cutlery, to have napkins, but everywhere you go in New York City, everything is given to you with disposable cutlery. You're always given napkins. If you want tomato or mustard with your chips, there's no dispensary where you can go and fill it up. You know, like you give it a push and it puts a plodge on top of your chips. It's just right? And there's this whole thing about it's recyclable and stuff. Recyclable is probably not the right term, because most plastics and things that we throw away are actually downcycled. They become inferior products, not the same product again. But even then, a lot of recycling is like they sort the garbage and they put it in landfill for someone to recycle it later on. And just seeing a city on this scale do that to me was alarming, because it already felt bad. And then I came here and I was like, this is like, there are way more people here, right? I wish they would do something about that. I don't know how you'd solve a problem like that, but it's just, it felt bad before I came here. And then it made me think about waste differently again. I was like, oh, this is like a whole nother level of waste coming out of this city right here. A lot of the disposable single-serve stuff is a legacy of COVID that never went away. Yeah, I can imagine that. Maybe before COVID it weren't so bad. And the problem there is that, like, if they shift and then they realise, oh, this is kind of cheap, then they'll stick with it, right? Yeah, crazy. So I had some eggs, potato meat, and waffles for breakfast. It was all right. I enjoyed it. But this was the day I was most looking forward to. I did like quite a bit of research and got some great advice, I feel. So the advice here was to use the metro and go to Brooklyn Bridge really early in the morning, but you go to the side on Brooklyn. So it's like a station somewhere around here, and you walk around Cadman Plaza and then down this side, and you get up onto the bridge that way. Because when we got here, it was like, we're walking, like, Google's telling me to walk away from the bridge, but it's because the entrance actually starts back here, so you go like around. So yeah, great advice that I found online to go do the Brooklyn Bridge walk in the morning. I wouldn't have thought to do that. I would have been like, a bridge is a bridge. But it's an amazing piece of architecture, and you actually get to like walk across this middle section here. Again, it's all about the views. You're walking across, the skyline is slowly moving. The weather was great on that day. It was something we had planned to do later on, but all the plans got muddled because we were fearing of the rain. So it was just like, let's go for it. California is different. We have a lot of wood and paper products instead of plastic. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure like what's better or worse for the environment with that stuff. The thing about wood is like what happens to it? Does it sort of decompose in the ground? That sounds right. That sounds friendly. But one of the things about wood is that burning it, what is it? It's carbon, right? Like burning wood is not good for your lungs, like to be around. And it's not good for the, atmosphere. Well, I say that like forest fires and stuff happen naturally, but yeah, it's just one of those things about wood. Is that it's often seen as like I think people think like fossil fuels for heating your home bad, but you might think a fireplace for wood is good, whereas it turns out actually that's releasing like more carbon into the atmosphere, and like it's bad for your lungs to be around campfire, if it's poorly ventilated. Salas Hidden, thank you so much for 2 months of support, and Morbrick77, thank you for 51. Appreciate you coming by, hanging out with us. Hope y'all are enjoying this totally different type of content that we're doing here today. I love my bagels, so much cream cheese, I love it. Hey, I got to have a New York bagel, I'll get to that, it was great. Again, I wanted to try all the different food, right? So yeah, walked over the Brooklyn Bridge, amazing views. I think I even have some pictures of this, right? Oh, here we go. Right, like now you see it, right? I just talked about how it goes round, leads up to the Brooklyn Bridge. There it is right there. Gotta love the view. Here it is again, a little bit closer. Beautiful day. Got the new Trade Center Tower in the background there. That building's just amazing. There's so many buildings that are amazing. That's the Manhattan Bridge over on that side. And then here's a little bit of finger blur. I was thinking like, I could easily edit that out, but AI will probably come in and fix that, all these AI features they're dropping into photo stuff now. Again, another just incredible view. So many of those wherever you go. Now, after this, the plan was basically to walk through the streets a bit, see the city. Like, again, you can just see, wow, like so much architecture. You're down here on the ground. There's always something to see. That, by the way, that is a building that we didn't get around to going to. Just noticed it there. Anyway, so you walk along here, City Hall Park. Around the corner, you see St. Paul's Chapel on the way, and then you got this worksite area with this thing next to it, and we're like, what the heck is that? What the heck is that thing? It's the Oculus. This is really up to date, by the way. Well, actually, I don't know how long this has been here, right? But this looks exactly like it was. So we kind of went in there briefly to use the toilets and then visited the 911 memorial. This was really impactful. Like, I remember seeing it online when they first revealed like what the memorial was going to be, and I was kind of blown away by the idea to have the water flowing in from the sides, like to leave that imprint of the body of the building and show the loss, and to create such a somber setting as having the sound of the water flowing. I honestly think that's like an incredible memorial. Like, I don't know how they came up with it conceptually, like how they got to that point, but that must be pretty incredible, because so often do we, erect statues and buildings and try and put symbols in place, yet this was just so simple, just to leave the squares that are the footprints of the towers in the ground like that. It really is something, and then there's lots of names written around the outside, which really like hits you when you see that kind of personal level of things. But anyway, One World Trade Center. I was actually advised to not do this, but I was honestly, I kind of thought like it's the tallest one in the city. I really want to like see the city from up here. And you can go to the top, and there is the One World Observatory, and you get this 360 view. And it must have spent like an hour up there just staring out of the windows. You get some really cool views that line up with a couple of avenues, so you can sort of like look down them. And that's one of the things in the cities. Especially when you're up in this area around Central Park, there's loads of moments where you can like stop in line and just look down one of the streets and just see these incredible views where it like opens up and you see all the like little bits of the buildings. Kind of incredible. So yeah, the One World Tower, absolutely go for it. I really wish I'd have brought the $15 thing. It's like an iPad where you can hold it up and it tells you what the buildings are. Yeah, we didn't do that, but I kind of thought, actually, I wish I had, because we spent so long looking at everything. So if you get there like day one kind of activity, get that iPad, learn all the names of the buildings, right? It's a really cool experience on the One World Tower. By the way, let's get this right. I was about to drop in an image, but my computer's lagging. There we go. That's what it looks like on the inside. This photo doesn't really do it justice. Like when you walk around, all of this is just intriguing from every angle. So Jemin asked, did I go to Central Park? I did. I will tell you the story. It must be strange to be able to see so far looking down a street. It really is. That's probably one of the reasons it hits you, is because you don't get to see that. You know, I go to London a fair bit, and I've been to a couple of cities here and there, and it's just not laid out like that. The grid thing is uniquely... Could be wrong, but I think it's a very American thing. Oh, and by the way, one thing I really wanted to say is that I remember from my childhood how friendly Americans are, and it was just lovely to be around friendly American people again. Like, I was just, you know, like you bump into people, someone gets in another, hi, how are you? How's your day? You talk about something, the weather, oh, where are you from? Whatever, you know, you're enjoying the city. Every time you get food, like you bump into people, like people are friendly and talk, and I really don't like how it's not like that here. Like, I think a lot of my own, air quotes, social problems stem from being in such a oddly introverted country where most of your conversations with people are, oh, sorry. Like, I try to train myself not to say that word or be like that anymore. I try my best, and I'll be in a shopping centre and I'll just hear, oh, sorry, from behind me, and I'll turn around and someone's like trying to scuttle out of the way, and it's like, I didn't even know you were there. Like, I really loved it. Just how nice people are to each other. My social anxiety would hate that, says the Crimson King. For me, it's the other way around. Like, it's the not talking that makes it awkward and anxious. Like, when people are, like, just friendly and smiley, it's just this American attitude. Like, every time you talk to someone, they say, have a great day. And like, you're like, yeah, you too, thanks. Like, it's really nice. New Yorkers can be quite rude. It gets much better in different parts of the US, says the Bees. Well, I didn't meet any rude New Yorkers. Like, it was, everyone there was just nice and friendly, and I really appreciated that. You know, I think there's a lot to just small talk and general civility. Like, not everyone you talk to has to be your best friend, or you have to have a deep, meaningful, emotional connection with. Like, it's just nice to be friendly to one another. And one place I talked to people the most was some of the people at the Intrepid, which is somewhere out here, like telling their stories about their service in the military and stuff. It's so nice, so nice. So yeah, Americans, y'all are like just wonderfully friendly, and like I love that. And apparently New Yorkers are not as friendly, but whatever. Like, I liked everyone I met. So anyway, up here, I see Scar in chat. Scar, perfect timing, because I wanted to tell you this. Like, on one of the last days there, this guy served us coffee, and he looked like Scar with like black hair, and he had just this aura of like calmness, and I couldn't describe it. It's just like something about their posture, you know, just pure calmness, and just had a little conversation about Florida and how swampy it is and stuff. But yeah, look, the guy looked a lot like you, Scar. This is inside the 911 memorial, which, by the way, was absolutely incredible, and if you happen to be there, you should go see it. This is one of the last standing pillars, and you can see the different departments for fire and police, like they put their marks on it. There's lots of images of people that have been attached. This whole experience was like really quite deep, because obviously if you're an American, 9/11 is like on another level, and then if you're a New Yorker as well. At the beginning of the stream, I talked about how, like, you know New York through reputation, through culture, like movies and music, and then when you go there, things kind of like fall into place. And with the 911 memorial, a lot of it fell into place. Like, I realized, you know, while I was back here in the UK watching it on the television, the whole world was gathering around it. It just kind of highlighted how much more personal it was inside of here for the New Yorkers, as well as obviously Americans. But like, this was like an attack on the city as well. And if you go, you should absolutely go in here and look around. Like, some of the stuff in there is really moving and incredible. I think what they've done for the whole event and created a way to remember it is incredibly well done. Now, there was one artist, Stephanie Sednuau, I'm obviously getting that wrong, right? Who took photographs there. And of all the things they shared, these images are just unbelievably moving. Like, they are really apocalyptic. This is all at ground zero, right? These images that this person took. They were there helping, they were a photographer, and then they just started taking snaps. And I'm not seeing some of the same ones that popped up in the gallery. There was like about 9, I think, inside of the gallery that they chose to share out of this collection. And they are surreal. They kind of have that sense of like, you couldn't imagine and then create this. Like, this was something that happened that was captured. You know, after this, maybe you could use it as inspiration for creating like a devastating apocalyptic scene. But it just hit you in that way where it was like you can't imagine this kind of stuff. These images, these are like really incredible photos of the destruction. So I'd recommend, if you wanted to see those, you know, like this setup that I've got for streaming. I don't do this stuff normally, so I don't know like quite how to get, because then you go to all of this, right? So like, I don't know how to set it up so this becomes the thing that you then, I mean, maybe like that? No, did that work? Yeah, okay, that's the way you do it. I'm learning. Yeah, just these things you just can barely imagine. Alright, food. So, after we went there, we went to Hank's Pizza. And what's crazy is that I could take you there, because you leave somewhere around here and walk down one of these streets. Somewhere around here, there's Hank's Pizza. Hank, I don't know who you are, but your pizza's incredible. So, New York has this reputation of like the pizza in New York, you can't beat it. You've probably had New York style pizza somewhere. I've had New York style pizza somewhere. It don't taste anything like New York pizza. New York pizza is amazing. Like, it really does. I don't know how they do it. They just, whatever the thing they're doing, it works, and it tastes so good. It reminds me of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles slice of pizza, the cartoon one. It just, like, my imagination just told me that was like the greatest slice of pizza you could eat, right? And I think Hank's Pizza is like one of these buildings down here. It's like on the corner. It's really good. Google Maps might be better for this bit. Like one of the things I love doing is like when we were gonna eat somewhere, I would zoom in on my phone in Google Maps and I would get all of these little places to eat pop up. Sometimes I would type pizza near me, and then I would read some reviews and look at the ratings and pick somewhere to go to, right? I'm going to try and find Hank's Pizza. We've got to do it. There's the memorial. Hank's Pizza is somewhere around here. Burger King. Oh, there it is, Hank's Pizza, yo! Shout out to Hank's. Yeah, this was a really good. I had 2 slices there. One was chicken and mayo. I've never had a chicken and mayo pizza before. It was great. The other one was like a classic pepperoni. So, good stuff. Good stuff, right? On the way out of here, we walked past this building. Another amazing thing is that they've kept lots of the cathedrals. So every now and then you just have something like this. This is when we were walking through Wall Street. So after we had some pizza, we walked through past Wall Street just because it's famous. You know, obviously amazing, great buildings and all of that, but it was a bit more of a place with a legacy for like what's taken place there. But when you walk down it is just like another street with buildings. There wasn't too much about it that stood out. But then we went to the Museum of the Native American, which was really great. It's also free. So if you go in there, free museums are always great. And what's inside is just really tons of great stuff to learn about the history of Native Americans, especially in New York as well. That sounds nice, like a nice pizza. X, reckon you get yourself a sponsorship deal with Hank's Pizzas? Probably not. I don't think like New Yorkers looking for pizza is particularly my target audience. So anyway, after this, went to the hotel, and then we went up to Yonkers to watch the New York Yankees. This wasn't where we sat, by the way. Like, this was me rushing up to like go, look at the view. I love stadiums, so this was amazing. And this is where we sat. And these tickets cost like $15, right? Here's another pro tip for visiting New York City. StubHub. To go to games, you can get cheap tickets. Up here in the nosebleeds, goes as low as like $9. And the view's amazing. You can watch the game. You can see the ball from out here. I got terrible eyes. I could see the ball. So you'll do just fine. Yeah, now I'm not a big fan of baseball, but I went there for the experience, and the experience was great. And what I learned is that American sports is about having a great time. I remember reading a review before we went here, and the review was literally saying, I love the Yankees. Some of the best conversations I've ever had were sitting up in the stands, right? And a lot of people around us were like having fun, talking. You see over here the screen? People love being on the screen. And like, it's all about having a good time, which I really like. The atmosphere was great. And compared to sports over here in the UK, I was just blown away. And I'll talk about that a lot more when we get to soccer, because I watch a lot of football. And I go to football grounds in the UK, and I hate the atmosphere. And like, to anyone who knows about like hooliganism, the history of it, violence of football over here in the UK, and it's been exported to Europe, like, if you know all of that stuff, you'll know what I'm talking about. It really sucks. Whereas over here, this stuff is really family friendly and inclusive. Like, everyone's welcome, and it's a nice atmosphere. And I love that about it. So yeah, also, we ate in a deli around the corner. Can I do the thing again? I'm going to do the thing again, right? So we go up here. Right, so the Yankee Stadium is there. And I think we got onto this stop. So this line runs above the ground. And then we went down one of these streets, and there was a deli. Now, I'd heard that the delis that are on the corners of blocks are really good, and that you should go into one. I'm pretty sure it was on this block. Maybe it was this block here. Bullpen Deli. That was the one. Now, in the UK, we have delis, but they're a lot rarer, and I've never really been into them. And delis basically have, like, can I see more? Was this it? I think this was it. All sorts of different food they'll make for you. They have a big long counter, so it's like a mix of a corner shop where you can go in, you get packets of crisps, drinks, snacks, and then they'll have food being cooked. And the food was really great. This is the one that we went into. This is exactly it right here. Dang, like, memories, you know? These days you can just go look it up on Google. What an age to live in, right? I had a wrap and a salad, and they were just really well done. Like, amazing cuisine. You know, like, if I lived in this city, I could understand how you might never cook. Because I often talk about cooking at home and how, like, eating healthy isn't tricky. But, like, now I've been to a city, I know that things can be different based on where you are. But the New York lifestyle is very fast, on your feet, get something to eat. Most of the time you're eating while walking, I'm pretty sure. Like, we ended up doing it a lot because we were trying to see so much. And you see people eating pizza on the street everywhere you go. So, like, getting fresh food, does seem to be a little trickier to eat healthier, just because of the nature of stuff. But yeah, another thing, by the way, New York gets really fresh fruit. There are these not vendors, like people sitting on the streets with these little carts set up, and they'll have these plastic cups full of fruit. And, you know, I got one. I didn't know quite what to expect, but it looks like everything I like. Mango, watermelon, other types of melon, berries, you got your blueberries, your raspberries, all that kind of stuff, kiwi, and it is so much fresher than what we get over here. I did not expect it. I was just like, oh my god, this is so nice. And immediately it hit me. It's just further to the source on the food chain, right? Like, stuff has to get transported. So what you're getting in New York City when it comes to fruit is fresh. If you live in the city, get one of those cups every day. That's a great way to get, you know, some vitamins in, some good nutrition. I was just blown away at how fresh it was, right? Like, I'm just closing some other windows, by the way. I just noticed we've got, like, a stupid amount of windows open. Let's get some of these closed off again. So I went there, the Bullpen Deli. Great food before the Yankees game. And, you know, going in and out of the stadium was awesome. Had a cool conversation with some peeps about some stuff going on back in the UK with peeps on the metro. So like, yeah, like I said, Americans are friendly and you can talk to them and stuff. But yeah, that was pretty much that day. And then I think what we did was we walked to New York, what do you call it, Times Square. And this was actually probably one of the more disappointing things, but it was more like, hey, I did it, I've been there. But there wasn't really much to do. It's just like, unless you're into like partying and drinking and getting drunk, it'll probably be much more fun because you'd be with your mates being silly and being like, hey, we're in Times Square in New York, but it's kind of like, as you could expect, just a bunch of stuff that's lit up and way too many people, right? So there wasn't much to photograph. I took a couple of snaps. That building, what is it with that building? It's like right next door to something. Oh, I remember it. It's next door to Times Square. There was another point later on in the trip where we were looking at this building and noticed the ball was right next to it, and the ball that drops at New Year's, right? It's very crowded all the time, says Raves Crave. Yeah, it was really crowded when we went. And I think we walked through it a little bit in the day once, and it was less crowded in the day, but you know. Did you go to Bibba Gumps? I did not. Right, just say you've been there and seen the New Year's ball. Yeah, just to say, literally, yeah. Maybe if you're into retail shopping, it might have had something to offer. I didn't really think too much of it. Now, all of our plans changed. We did have a day where we were like going to go to Central Park, and one of the things that I didn't get to do, which I really wanted to do, was go to Billy's hot dog stand, which is somewhere around here in one of these streets. Apparently he's there every day, and it's supposed to be the best hot dog in New York. Now, I'm not a fan of hot dogs, but apparently everything's great in New York City, right? Like, everything I tried so far was brilliant, but unfortunately I didn't get to do that. Has anyone here had Billy's hot dog? I mean, the amount of times I read when researching that Billy's hot dogs was the best hot dog in New York, I'm like, what's this guy putting in the hot dog, man? Is he lacing it with LSD? Is that why everyone's loving it so much? I'd probably love it if he laced it with LSD. I'm not promoting the use of LSD, I'm just saying. Yeah, so what we did eat was just down here. Right, one of these buildings, I can't quite see it, but if we switch to Google Maps and go there, this is so much fun. I hope y'all are enjoying this as much as I am. Somewhere on this street, come on, where is it? Do I have to zoom in a little more? There is a place that does bagels. And I think it's one of those places with a proper reputation, because when we went in, it was rammed and they were trying to turn around as much as they could. Broad Nosh Bagels. 3 thumbs up from me. I've only got 2 hands, but 3 thumbs up. I got a bagel here with cream cheese and salmon. And I was in Cambridge before I went, and I don't normally go for bready food, but I had a cream cheese and salmon bagel because it sounded cool. And it was like okay. I was like, not that great. The one I had here, oh, to die for. Don't know how they do it. I think that like it's like survive or die. It's like evolution. Food in the city, because of the density, you got to make it good to survive because there's so many people, right? I reckon all the bad food just doesn't survive. You have to do good. So I had one of those. My dad also had Eggs Benedict, which had this weird like hash brown thing with it, and it was so tasty because I tried a bit of that. So yeah, like this was really great. If you go to Central Park, like get the metro here, pop off before you go in. So we walked around Central Park, and it is massive. Like when you look at a map, you can maybe try and get a sense of like how big it is. I'd say this thing is probably about 3 or 4 times as big as I thought it would be based on this. Like it really is humongous. Let's go look at some pictures, right? Look at that. That building there, by the way, that might be the museum. The one that Neil deGrasse Tyson works at with the Hayden Planetarium. It might be that one. Like, these are some snaps that I got, right? And that is my favorite one. Especially with the clouds. Like, again, we were always dodging the rain. And we got there, we thought it was going to be rainy. We had different plans. And then we were like, it's not raining. Why don't we try and enjoy Central Park? So we walked through a lot of it. It's dragging another photo. Look at that. There's a ginormous lake in it too. I got to go cycling through Central Park once, and man, it was great, says Nightshade Owl. Yeah, I would have loved that, or to go for a run through there. That's so cool. They've got those city bikes everywhere. You know, if I ever go back, maybe, depending on who I'm with, I might be able to do something by myself for a day, or I don't know what would happen, but, you know, getting on a bike and going around would be cool. What? You're British. Why are you avoiding the rain? You know, we went over there expecting it to be, like, hot all week. And I had packed for it being hot, and I had like one little pack-a-mac, and that was it. Like, it's not great when you're not prepared for it, right? This is just something at night. Let me read my journal here, because I'm getting ahead of myself. Like, I wrote down so many notes. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, okay. So I've like skipped a bunch of stuff. So we ended up like pretty much walking all the way up to like past the Met, past the lake. We're up in this area, and we go to this place, the Museum of the City of New York. Okay, this was the moment that so much stuff came together to me, because the 9/11 memorial the day before really like made me feel a lot of connection to that moment in time, I guess. But coming here, this is a must-see. This is not one of the as well-rated things to do in the city. There's other things that are rated above it quite frequently on lists and whatnot. But this, for me, had like a cultural impact where I wanted to go there because it's about New York and we're in New York. You could probably learn a lot of this stuff yourself before you go. But to just be there and to go through the exhibits they had, it taught you about the history of New York from New Amsterdam all up to the current day. Like how the settlement that the Dutch had was turned over to the British, and how the Dutch actually made a trade with the Native Americans who probably thought they wanted to share the land, and for like a bunch of trinkets, shiny trinkets in a box, they supposedly brought the Manhattan area. Interesting bit of history. Brings you all the way through the history of the city, how the high-rises came up into these giant skyscrapers up to the modern day, how it had like a slump in the 70s and in the 30s as well with the Great Depression. But on the top floor of this place, they had music from the city. Again, just kind of hit me how many bands I like. Like I recently got into Typo Negative, also from New York. You got Hip Hop, right? The Three Boroughs, the Bronx, Queens, and Brooklyn, where, oh my god, what are their names? Grandmaster Flash, Africa Bombada, and like this other guy, and the whole history of that music is there, and I love it. It's so cool. It came together though because the other thing was they have this room dedicated to movies, New York in movies. So you go in there and it's just constant snippets of movies, and so often you're like, oh, I've seen that. Like, everyone's probably seen The Joker recently, right? And that staircase scene with the staircase that he dances down, that's in New York. And there's so many iconic things you've seen in New York. Friends was set in New York. Home Alone 2's in New York. There's tons of it. And we all know like a lot about how this place looks and feels through that. And when I was in here, it all came together. I was like, I'm starting to get why people love this place so much. I understand those shirts now. I used to think they were tacky, the I Heart NY. I used to think they were a bit like, I don't know, cliche, tacky. I never liked them. But now that I've been there, I get it. It's like, you know, you've probably heard like people say like they lived in New York and they always feel like a New Yorker. I was getting that sense. I was like, if you lived here, this place would like, you'd get attached to it in a way. Because it's just got this really different energy from other places. And so, yeah, it was in that, like, room that it all started to come together. And I started reading about the history of the different movies that New York had been set in. Or the other way around. The movies have been set in New York, right? Cringe, some of you are saying. Yeah, I don't like using that word a lot, but maybe something like that. The thing with cringe is that I think it's like, it's on you when you cringe at something. Like, especially when you cringe at other people or whatever. I don't know. Like, everyone's like tripped over and made a fool of themselves or whatever. Or just not read the social situation right. I just think cringy's kind of like judgy. And I never really liked that when someone's like, oh, it's cringy. That being said, I do like cringe humor, like The Office, when you're like observing people, but that's in like a setting for that type of humor. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, this is a must go and a moment where it kind of like came together for me. I went round the back here and got some food at one of these delis, and the place served Indian stuff, and it was like a little go in and pick what you want, put it in a bowl. I wish I'd have gotten more. They had a sag paneer and a chicken tikka masala. Now, the reputation I've heard is that Americans don't know how to do Indian cuisine. Based on my a sample experience of one, I have a feeling that maybe Americans just don't like it, and so it doesn't get the same reputation, because that was honestly the best sag paneer I think I've ever had. And the chicken tikka masala is really good too. I only had a small amount, because I took a little bit of everything. There was lots of different food on offer. But yeah, shout out to that little deli place. I was well impressed with that. I was just like, oh my god, this is so good. New Yorkers now to do all cuisines is about 900 potatoes. Yeah, if I go back, I think I got to have an Indian. I got to have a curry when I'm out there, because that logic makes sense, right? All food in New York City has to be good or it dies out quick, says Tipsqueak. Yeah, this is my theory from like a moment ago when I was talking about the bagels. It's like, is this evolution? Is this like survival of the fittest or something? Do you have to be really good at food to survive in the city? Because that's what it seems like, right? So yeah, I was well surprised by that, and I really think like I should have taken more. I should have got like a bigger box to put the food in. Yeah, because I don't know, like it was weird. Like I could have probably eaten a lot more. I didn't put on any weight or anything because we were just moving around so much. But I don't know, like towards the end I was getting a bit like full up on all the food, yet you know, even though I kind of was pretty aware that I wasn't like eating as much as I could. It was a weird thing. Yeah. Right, so after that, after we were in this area, we head down to a place called Union Square to get tickets for a show. The Blue Man Group. Now, when I was in America as a kid, this show called Arrested Development aired on TV the weekend that I was there, and I watched it and I went, this is amazing. And I was yeah, a big fan of that show ever since. Now, David Cross is in that, an actor, comedian, great guy. Love some of the stuff he's done. He auditioned as his character in that show for the Blue Man Group. That's how I became aware of it. Never actually like looked into it or understood particularly what it is. We get a search up here, like Union Park. But when I learned that it was in New York and it actually started there and it's been there since 1993, I was like, well, dang, you know, let's go see that. And my parents are up for it, so it was nice. I kind of thought it might be one of those things they wouldn't want to take a chance on. They both loved it. I loved it. Yeah, so based on this view from up above, I think somewhere down here is a place called Unregular Pizza. And oh my god, it is not a traditional New York style pizza. I can just start doing this now, can't I? This will be it right here. Unregular Pizza. Yeah, it's just off the side here. That's the building. Yeah, we actually came here because there was a Mexican nearby, but this place caught our eye. And you basically, it's like pizza, but they try and do things a bit different. Like they did a deep fried bolognese, which was just like the weirdest little snack ever, but it was gorgeous. And they did a pizza that had what looked like a mozzarella ball lumped in the middle of it, but it was actually full of cream cheese. Dang. So we wandered over into Union Square, got a bench, sat down and had some amazing New York pizza. It's so cool. This place is so cool. I would love to go back again one day. You know. That's called burrata cheese. Oh my god, burrata cheese. It needs to be bookmarked. Can I get this over here? Burrata cheese. Oh my god, it's a thing! Yes! Oh, right, I'm bookmarking that one for later. That was so cool. That was so cool. Oh, by the way, I've just become aware that I have neglected my noises in the ear. Disguised Fish, thank you ever so much for your 9 months of support. Greatly appreciated, my dude. Coney Lives. Here with the Prime. You know, Coney with a K, not Coney Island. Thank you so much, my dude. African Wild Dog here for 38. Hey, haven't been here for a long time. Well, welcome, my dude. Hope you're enjoying this very different thing that we're doing here today. Just hanging out, talking about a holiday. I mean, like, New York was really special. And the whole time I was there, I was just like, oh, I've got to talk about this. And luckily, I got an audience where I can sit and waffle about it for a few hours. Because, you know, no one wants to listen to their mate waffle on about a holiday for this long. As much as you like them, that's just not how conversation works, IRL. But here on the internet, you can sit and waffle all you like. So, I just wanted to, like, get all of this off my chest. I don't think this is a thing I'll do, like, whenever I go on a trip. I think New York was really special. But it'll certainly be on my mind now, because like, this is a cool experiment. Like, using this to look at everything and kind of interactively show you what I've been up to. Really quite cool. I hope y'all are liking it as much as I am. Yeah. Just looking at my journal. Oh, yeah. And then after that, we went into this amazing health foods shop. Like, I don't know what pulled us in off the street. I think there was a bunch of fresh fruit. But, like, America does everything big. And so for me, going into like a fresh foods place, you know, like here in the UK, you go look for some Doritos. There's 3 different flavors. In America, there's like 20. Now, fortunately for me, I'm well and truly over my junk food and snacks and treats. And so when I look at all those different colorful packagings on the shelf, I'm like, it's kind of all the same thing. I don't need to try any of this. But I went into this health foods place and it was like, dang, like, there's just so many different types of fruit. And then there was all this hot food at the back that you could put into a tray and take away with you. We did have a plan to go back there, but we kind of changed plans. And that, again, another little place I'll like to go visit if I ever get to go back again. So yeah, we went and rested at the hotel and then went on a nighttime tour of the city. Now this is another must do if you go. And like, I took a lot of pictures, and unfortunately, when you're on a moving bus taking pictures at night, the quality is not very good. So, of the blurry images, or sorry, the unblurry images, let's say, this is what this image was now. Like, you can even see the bus. Okay, that's kind of like a bus thing. Yeah, this was on the bus. So, all of my images were, unfortunately, not very good. But a few were reasonable. And again, I don't think these do any justice. I really should have taken a video, actually. It would have been a good idea. That's the back of the library. Another thing that I could have gone in and seen that didn't get to. And then there's kind of like the best picture, I think, for giving you that feeling, right? The way my camera takes these pictures, though, it really exposes the sky a little too much. There are probably way better New York at night images than this. But nothing will beat sitting on the bus and going around. Like, it's like I said with the mountains. Everyone's seen pictures of snowy covered mountains, but when you're out there skiing, they move around you and the city moves around you. And it's in this moment that I kind of remembered that the city never sleeps, as they say. This is at time. Okay, I typed in talking and typing. These pictures feel like a little bit exaggerated, but they kind of get the gist of the atmosphere. Yeah, they feel like overexposed on the lighting a little. But again, you're moving around it and you're seeing all this stuff lit up and it is just gorgeous. And wherever you go, people are moving. And again, that quote really like sunk in, where it's like the city never sleeps. It really doesn't. It's full of hustlers and creeps. What's that from? Nas? That's probably that. Out of all the images we've seen so far, this is like a helicopter view. But I would say that's probably got the most realistic feeling. And you're down on the ground level, looking up at these buildings, and wherever you move, there's lights. People are alive. There's so much activity. I kind of wish I could have gone on a night tour again, or a longer one. It was like an hour long, and it just went by so quick. It felt like 10 minutes. Oh my god. I'm a 40-minute commute from Manhattan, and I'm really enjoying your waffling, says Snowbuff. So you're commuting right now and listening to that. That's so cool. Well, it's 9 o'clock here, therefore I know it's 4 o'clock over there, so maybe you just got off work. Yeah, like, What was that thing I was saying earlier? They say like, you know, once a New Yorker, always a New Yorker. I'm gonna say like, oh, I'm a New Yorker now or anything. But I feel like I understand that. If I lived in this city for a couple of years, like I feel like you would always think about it after, because just everywhere you go, there's movement. Also, the metro system is really, really well designed. Just, it all looks confusing at first, but once you get your head around like how the different signs work, you pretty much just like, you figure out where you want to go, and then when you go, okay, that one's not getting closed. I'm closing some windows here. When you go down into the metro, you figure out where it is you want to go, you know. I keep in this one open, this image here, because there's something else I want to talk about that was happening in the city, and I think we're coming up on a day where it becomes very relevant. But anyway, we're now on day 4. You should come ball during Christmas time. It's very atmospheric. I'd imagine so. Yeah. But I'm not much of like a partier. Like for me, I go to places like this to learn and to see. I'm not more like, if you said like come to a party, I'm like, and do what? I'm not like a party person. So like the idea of going for like a holiday party like event, I don't know. I just, it wouldn't be my thing. What was the thing that surprised you most about New York City? Oh, surprised? Honestly, like the reputation of the place was all there. You heard about the food being great. You heard about like the atmosphere in that. I think the surprise was how real that was, right? Like the myth of the city. You've heard people talk so enthusiastically about it. Casey Neistat would be a modern one. Like you've seen it in movies, you've heard it in music. And then a more recent thing of like YouTube and vlogging, Casey Neistat talking about how much he loves the city. He leaves for a couple of years and then has to come back. Like all of that, like you hear it, but then when you go there, it makes sense. Like it felt like the myth was real. You know, that's what surprised me. Before going, it was honestly just like everyone talks about New York City. Let's go. Come on. Done my research. Like, let's see what it's like. And then you're there and you're like, oh, this should have been top of my list. You know? This should have actually been top of my list. It was kind of like that. Right, day 4. Oh yeah, I worked out. I found out that the hotel had a gym. I was like, yes! So I did a little bit of the old weightlifting in the gym. Now there wasn't a lot of equipment, and there was some equipment that didn't have the right attachments, so you couldn't even use it. So all I had was like bench and dumbbells, but I managed to do something, which is good, because if I go like more than a few days without working out, my brain is not so kind. So that kind of like, you know, kept me in a good place. So yeah, then we walked to Bryant Park. Should we do this on the map? Because this is a lot of fun, right? Okay, so we're like, oh, there it is, labelled up here. Yeah, so now it's starting to come back to me. So I'm in a hotel somewhere along these streets. You walk out, go around the corner up to Times Square, right? And then Bryant Park, beautiful place. That's the, we had this image up on the screen a moment ago. That's the library. And I got a bagel with a couple of hash browns and some egg and bacon, I think, on the inside. Oh, it's just a gorgeous little breakfast. Had to have some eggs. You know, after working out, need my protein, right? Was a gym just for shows then, says Skyfighter. You know, it was a hotel gym, right? There's just some equipment in there. Like, whoever put it in there wasn't trying to give you access to a full body workout or whatever. It was just some basic equipment, a few running machines. I tried to use their cycling machines, but I'm just too big for them. They just felt like they were designed for kids or something. I couldn't like move my legs properly on them. It was weird. So, yeah. Anyway, we were planning on going to the Rockefeller Center, but it was raining, and apparently the view at the top of the rock, which was the one that I read that you should go to see outside of the city. I'd actually say that doing both, the One World Observatory at the 911 site and the Rockefeller Center, they're both really good views, but the Rockefeller is more central. So although it's not higher, you get this view out into Central Park, which is kind of amazing. You don't really get that from the other one. This, I'm pretty sure, is the Rockefeller Center. They own all of these buildings. It's like a complex of buildings, and the main building actually has this little bakery on one of the sides. It might be that one there. I think it's that one there. But yeah. We were planning on going here to go to the top of the rock, which is this bit, and have a view out across the city. As you can imagine from here, the views are pretty incredible. This is like totally the vantage point. This technology that we have today is just amazing. This is absolutely the vantage point that you get over the city. These are like the views that I was looking out on. That's so cool. You don't have to go. You can just use Google Earth. Did you visit the Edge? It has a great view from Midtown. I did not, because we'd done 2. It kind of felt a bit too much to do 3. This is the Edge here. At the Edge, like as you can see, there's this overhang. Is this actually it, or is that... Or maybe it's this one? I think it's this one here. It sort of looks a bit weird that it's got this, because they kind of advertise it as you being able to go to the very corner, and like there's glass and you can look below and down. But yeah, didn't get to go to that one. So due to the rain, we had to change plans, and we went back up to Central Park and into the American Museum of Natural History with the Hayden Planetarium, which is actually inside of there. It's a sphere where Neil deGrasse Tyson works. And yeah, this whole place, incredible collection of history and whatnot. I say unfortunately, I had a great time. We got the plus tickets where you get the extras. They sounded really good and they didn't cost too much more, and they were. You get to go into a room with loads of butterflies, which was just gorgeous. There was like a movie. There were 4 things. I can't remember what one of the other ones was, but you also get to do the planetarium, which was one of the best. I've only been to like a couple of planetariums, but that was a really great experience in there. And then I went to get some food. Okay, food time again, right? So I'm using my maps. I go up the street, and when you walk down these streets, these are like residential. These are like, you know, people live here, and this is their like daily walk up and down their local street. All of these are apartments, and it kind of hit me again. It's like, wow, it's like another part of the city. It's like really fascinating, and just seeing that normal kind of New York life. I also looked at a place that, you know, sells property and rents them and stuff, and some of these apartments, I don't know if they were actually in this area, but they were $2,000 a month, which I was like, oh, I was not expecting it to be, you know, that cheap. Here's the other thing though, like rent isn't the only expense if you live in a city, right? The cost of food and whatnot, all of that kind of stuff. Let's see if I can give you another amazing food recommendation, because this was the best pizza that I had while I was here. So we're over this side. It's pretty much like in line. I think it was down 1 block and off to the right. These names look very... Made in New York Pizza. I later on found out this is actually a chain. There are more than one of these, but this was the best pizza that I had. It was so good. I got a spinach and ricotta pizza. I just wanted to try something different from the classic pepperoni, and oh my god, was it so good. When I got back over here, I also had a corn dog, right? I thought there was a food truck. I thought at some point I've got to have a corn dog, so I know what it is, right? If you have watched lots of my streams and heard me talk about food, I have on occasion asked what a corn dog is. Here's what a corn dog is. It's sweet pancake, sort of cooked around a sausage, a hot dog sausage. And those two things, they kind of go together. I had one with mustard on. It was a bit of a weird mix of like sweet and savory. I'm glad I tried it. It wasn't the greatest thing ever, but you know, there you go. It's a dog breed that is made of corn, of course. Ah, corn dog. Yes. No, I'm on about corn dog, you know. Cornbread over hot dog. To me it was a pancake, like a pancake that I've had over here. And it was a sweet pancake, not a savory pancake. Yeah, maybe it is cornbread, but just, you know, terminology differences between culture or whatever. Right, by the way, oh my god, I've skipped out a little bit of the story, because going to Bryant Park, we went to Grand Central Terminal. You may recognize this from movies. I always remember there's a scene where, like, over at these steps, there's like, you know, these guys with a gun. It's at night time, it's very quiet, and a baby in a pram like goes down these steps, and it's gonna like come to the bottom and might injure or kill the baby, and like, I don't know, it's like a scene from a movie that I really remember. It's also in Home Alone. Yes, well pointed out. The Untouchables, that might just be the movie. That really sounds like the one. The Untouchables. So yeah, I got to see that place. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Now, in the Natural History Museum, I got to go see gems. Look at that. Oh, now, I went to London to see their Natural History Museum and came across the gem section and was deeply fascinated with it. And then here, this was the last place that I got to, and there was a couple more places, and I only had like 90 minutes or 2 hours to like get around this room, and I felt really gutted because I was like, I could spend the whole day in this one room. Minecraft needs more gems. When you learn about the names of gems and you realize you've seen them in mod packs and stuff, like it really made me feel like it could be gamified a little bit in some way. But there were about 10 to 12 things like this. Okay, optical properties, color, what color is. Like, we understand that, you know, there are optics, colors that we see from the different gems, but it goes into detail about what makes that happen, and then it tells you about things that you don't know to ask, like luster, how does it shine? Refraction, how does it bend light? And so minerals, not only are they beautiful and pretty and come in many different shapes, varieties and forms, they have like a sort of like physics angle to them that I find really fascinating. And I spent so long reading about this stuff, and I was reading it like, I know I'm just going to forget all of this, but I'm really enjoying it. And then they have just a phenomenal collection. There are about 20 to 30 display cases, and I took so many more pictures than I'm showing you. And then they had this area dedicated to like when it's been turned into jewelry. And so, you know, you can see all the different types of these beautiful gems. My pictures don't do them justice because I'm not a professional. I'm just snapping on my smartphone. Yeah, beautiful collections of the gems. And I found my favorite, which is this one right here called Opal. Okay, now Opal is originally considered to be an unlucky type of gem. It's basically where you don't get that pure color, like a consistent color. You get like strange refractions, mixes of colors. Sometimes they're similar, like shades of blue, like aquatic turquoise blues. And then sometimes they can have bursts of all sorts of different colors in them. One of my absolute favorites, I didn't take a picture of it, it was in the dark rooms later on. It was a like basalt black rock that had like tiny little glistenings of color all along it from all different parts of the rainbow spectrum. It was utterly amazing. I don't know why I didn't take a picture of it. But yeah, these beautiful, beautiful gems. Just, wow. I love them. Here's the thing. I'm not into astrology, and this event that occurred in no way, shape or form pushed me any closer to the world of astrology. But my birth month is linked to Opal, in someone's opinion, because that is not a thing that really exists beyond someone's imagination. So whoever imagined that these rocks were linked to birth months happened to link my favourite to my birth month. I'd just call that a coincidence, because if I started thinking about all the things that I consider my favourite and then found people that had done some hokey cokey guesswork to link them to when you're born, would probably find, on average, no significant connections. It just so happened that my fascination of rocks also has, or should I say minerals, has a connection to Opal. Apparently I might be saying this wrong. Oh, you're a real pal, huh? Opal, Opal. Opal? I don't know. To be honest, opals are C-tier minerals at best. That's why I love them. Because they're oddballs. They're quirky. They're not formed properly. They're outside the norm. I identify with them, man. Leave me alone. Okay. Here's another beautiful collection. Just, they're so cool. I don't know what it is. Like, I'm not into collecting stuff, but I feel like if I started collecting little rocks, I could totally get into that. I don't know why I find them so beautiful and like satisfying to look at. I think it's because when you understand, like they're very visually gratifying, but when you understand what's behind them, they become way more intriguing because their story is like one of physics and timescales beyond our comprehension. Like the Earth creates these at the pace that mountains move. If you go sit in a field and look at the mountain, it don't change. But if you imagine your lifespan isn't, like you're not experiencing time at the pace you do, imagine you're experiencing let's say, you know, an average life expectancy of 75 years. Imagine you're experiencing 75 years every second, or like a year a second. Then the mountains will start to move, because over a large enough time span, the surface of the Earth changes. The activity underneath it, you know, volcanoes and the plates, those plates, man, you know, like the ones you eat your food off of, they're moving under that ocean. Like, mountains are things that form, and like this is what happens underground. Like all of these gems and quartz crystals are being formed over this incredibly slow period of time for us, and it, you know, it's just got that beautiful relationship to like physical reality, chemical reality, and time on a scale beyond us. And that's why I think they're just so amazing, because not only is their story incredibly intriguing, they are beautiful. Intrinsically beautiful. Alright. How long have we been doing this for? I had no idea how long this would be, like half an hour or what, but like when I was going around experiencing everything, these little like things to talk about were just in my head. I was like, I want to get this off my chest. When I get home, it feels so good to do that. Cookie Dude on Twitch. I had Warhammer when I was a kid. But today we're waffling about New York City. The Cheese Eater, thank you for 9 months. Woo, glad to see you're back. Hope your trip was great. It was, as you can probably tell, fantastic. I thoroughly loved my time there. You know, maybe part of that is just I needed a mental break. Here's another thing I did, okay, or did not, let's say. I didn't really use social media much at all. I didn't check Twitter, which I don't check Twitter like a normal person checks Twitter. I just look at my mentions to catch things. I don't go browsing. I did get to hang out with the Hermits one evening for a little bit. I thought I'd check in, but I barely went on my laptop. Like, I totally just switched all of that off. I used my phone a lot, but it was just to look at Google Maps and look at stuff that was going on in New York, or like, you know, you'd learn about Art Deco, which it was in the Rockefeller Center area. So then, like, when we're on the metro, maybe I'm on my phone reading about Art Deco. By the way, service is great. Like, when you're on the metro, you don't get it all the time when you're underground, but whenever you pull up to a station, you got that 4G. Everywhere you go in the city, there's like citywide Wi-Fi that's free. It's so good. Like, the infrastructure there's really just up to scratch, that kind of thing. Yeah, I kind of realised it halfway along that I wasn't paying attention to any of that stuff, and kind of realised that it was, you know, good for me. So after that, we scrambled back down to Madison Square Garden, very famous venue by name. The shape of it, I couldn't really tell you off of memory, but I watched a movie called Godzilla when I was a kid. It was the American remake. Some people hate that movie. I always remember the bit in the beginning where he goes, Godzilla. Where he holds up this little lighter. They're trying to get a word out of him. What is it? What is this thing? Godzilla. I kind of like it. It's like Volcano. It's like just one of those 90s action movies. I don't know. Like I like a movie like that. Not all of them, but at least that one. Anyway, so this is Madison Square Garden. We had to go there to get tickets, and we had to go in amongst the Avenged Sevenfold fans. And I was like, oh man, this is like, you know, I haven't been to a gig in a while. I haven't been to live music in a long time, and like seeing all the metalheads, it just brought back some memories. It was kind of weird, like going in there to get tickets for Tears for Fears, while Avenged Sevenfold were on that evening. I would have happily watched Avenged, but we had other plans. One of the reasons we had to go get tickets as well was just I got locked out of Ticketmaster because I couldn't do two-step verification. I had an American SIM. That's something to consider before you go. StubHub is great because you don't need an account to buy tickets. Ticketmaster, you need two-step 2FA by default. So it's linked to my UK number and I can't receive texts. I mean, I probably could have, but yeah, I should have thought about that actually. I probably could have and it would have charged me. But I had swapped out my SIM for a temporary holiday one. So, you know, I think what I would recommend is to get your old smartphone and bring your old SIM with you, but like put a temporary SIM into your main phone so you get that proper 4G access while you're out there. And then if anything silly you know, pops up. You still got your own phone. I didn't think of that at the time. No dual SIM phone. I do actually have a dual SIM phone, but I didn't want to put both in at the same time because you get charged a lot of money if people ring you or message you, and I never like actually used it for both. I don't know how the phone interacts with both at the same time. So my mind was like, you know, I'll just turn off. Basically, it'd be like my phone's turned off for a week, right? And then also I have less distractions. But everyone, you know, uses WhatsApp to communicate anyway. So like, yeah, it just made sense. So you actually went to the Tears for Fears show? I did, yeah, I did. Yeah, so after here, I went and got some street food. Now, when you get street food off of the trucks, my advice is, you're going to see the same generic trucks everywhere, and the food they offer isn't that great. Whereas, when you see the more unique looking ones, they're probably the ones you should go for, because the street truck food had a pretty good reputation, but the ones that I did eat from, I didn't really think too much of it. It felt kind of like quick and greasy. I had a Philly cheesesteak on the first day that was like, the bread was just a bit and then I had on this day I had like chicken and rice, and it's just a bit basic. So I never got to try the more unique looking food trucks, but I'd heard so much about them, and whenever I'd seen them sort of talked about, it wasn't these generic ones I was seeing everywhere. So that would be my maybe any New Yorkers in the chat. I mean, here's the thing. We got 500 peeps, okay? Now, I could do some mathematics. Like, someone out there, it's your birthday. So happy birthday, you. And you're thinking, X, how did you know? And some of you thinking, oh, X, not my birthday, you silly goose. Well, I got something for you too. Happy not birthday. Oh, shit, I'm birthday. Oh, jeez, this is terrible. This is a terrible joke. I also forgot the point I was trying to make. We got 500 peeps here. You know, mathematically speaking, there might be good odds that some of y'all are New Yorkers. So please do tell us. Hard to find a good Philly cheesesteak outside of Philadelphia. Yeah, that sounds about right, I imagine. Yeah, those generic, they're the mostly blue-coloured ones that sit on the side of the streets absolutely everywhere. With those, is it sorbet or something little... Oh, what do you call them? Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember what they're called. They got these like little things above them, and they got this brand of hot dog or something on it. Anyway, I live in New York City, and I typically avoid the food trucks. Yeah, those blue ones, right? New York laws makes it hard for food trucks to make a living in most places. Interesting. Because those generic ones are very, like, obviously franchised in a way, and they were just not that good. So yeah, you know, I'd say avoid those. Anyway, after we went and watched the Blue Man Group, right? I was wondering if their shows are on YouTube or anything like that. These guys. Now, this is in like multiple places, so it's not the same three people every time you see them. But they do sort of like performative art with music that has a really like quirky comedical beat to it. And it was in a really small theatre, sort of wedged between a couple of buildings. It's been in New York since 1993. They must change the show up every so often. This was part of the show that I saw, this bit right here. And the way they mix music and do little stunts and whatnot in between is just wonderful. The comedic beat was so funny. Yeah, this was it. They did a bit with these pipes and blowing into them. But they're kind of like aliens. Like, they interact with stuff in like this bemusement way where they don't know what's going on, and it's so good. But then they also at one point just started coming into the crowd, right? And they're literally walking on the armrests between your seats, and you know, people will move out of the way, so like it kind of works. And we're sitting up top, and one of them just like climbs up top and gets all in our faces and looking around, and it was just like, oh my god, I can't believe what's going on here. And the jokes and the gags that they did were just so funny. There was this like one moment where they're all eating these Captain Crunch cereal boxes, and they're really weird with it. It's like they don't understand how to eat cereal, and they're like looking at each other with these strange expressions. And one of them's got a really big box, and they also, like, the other two start looking at the big box, and then he just like throws the big box away, and inside it is just a regular size box, and it's just like really weird but really funny. And they, you know, they make a few like, oh, they've been on The Simpsons. They make a few like political points occasionally, not political, I don't know, just like get you thinking about stuff. Like there's this gag where they're showing all these like interconnected wires and pipes going everywhere, and it's like talking about, oh, we live in an interconnected society. And you're thinking, all right, we're going to go on about the internet. And then they're like, no, it's sewage. Like waste, right? Like all the pipes moving waste through the city. Oh, yeah. And then they do a bit with these blades. They weren't dressed up like this, but the blades is really cool. If you're into like a good bit of, I don't know, quirky, fun comedy and you like music, this is something for you. I was so impressed. I would like to go see the show again, I think. I don't know if you go and watch it in different countries, if it will be the same show or not. Right? Unless the sewage is the metaphor for the internet. It might have been. Right? Like, gets you thinking. Bread Tab says more like social commentary. Yeah, social pondering maybe. Like, it just, they do things in a way that make you think a little bit. You know, it's less of like making a point, but more of like, it's like a point that isn't pointing at anything. It's like asking you, what would you point at? This is Arrested Development, by the way, with Tobias. Just looking at this makes me laugh. So many funny moments in that show. Oh, I wouldn't mind watching a little bit of Arrested Development again. What I love about that show is that its jokes come like this. Like, they just roll one after the other. It feels like every line of dialogue, like, is designed to be a joke off of the previous one. It's like you can't keep up with it sometimes. It's so well done. Anyway, let's get to day 5. After seeing the Blue Man Group. Didn't take any pictures, by the way. It asked you not to. And although I would have liked to, like, snuck a picture for myself, I didn't. So day 5. Okay. Again, we're dodging the weather, but it's supposed to rain a lot today, but maybe not in the beginning of the day. So what we did is we headed down to Wall Street, to the river, to the Pier 11 on Wall Street, and you get this ferry trip for $4 all the way up to 90th Street. So again, another tip, I think using the public transport sometimes for, this is it right here. You know, to see the city is great. Now, because it was the morning and it was cloudy, like the views were kind of different. I've got a lot of pictures that don't look so impressive, but every now and then, like the clouds are just in the right position. A lot of stuff disappeared into the clouds too. And then this bridge right here, I don't know the name of it, but I thought it was a pretty impressive shot to like get the scale of it or whatnot. So it goes all the way up the river, right? All the way up the east side, East River. And under the Brooklyn Bridge, then under the Manhattan Bridge, and then Roosevelt Island, which I was really intrigued to see because the people that live on this island don't have a trash pickup service. Every building apparently has trash chutes built into them, so garbage disposal goes to like an underground network. I don't know quite how it works when it's underground, like maybe trucks go back and forth and pick it all up. But yeah, very unique little feature of this island. You know, you won't see garbage bins outside being ready for collection or anything like that. It's all done underground. And yeah, you go down this side over here under this bridge. We just looked at a picture of that actually. Or maybe it was this one. Yeah, it was that one. And then you come up out here at like 90th Street, which is probably... Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's around here. And then we walked like this way a little bit. And then we walked into the city a little bit. And then down the block a couple of places. And somewhere down here we ate at a proper diner. Like a real local New Yorkers American diner. I got myself... What was it? Bacon, eggs, sausage, and pancake, right? Classic American breakfast. I wasn't that impressed, even though I felt like the service, the food was really good in there. I think I'm kind of over that pancake and eggs thing that Americans do. I had a little bit of butter on it, and I had a little bit of syrup, maple syrup at the end. Didn't really do it for me though. I feel like I'm over that one now, you know. I'm a bit of a foodie, and I see all the Americans with some interesting cuisine, and that one I didn't think was that great. I've also tried it myself, you know. I've made some eggs with pancakes before, and it's a bit like, Erin Sol says, British fry-up is better. I'd agree on that one. If you're going to have eggs, bacon and sausage, do a full English breakfast, you know. Some hash browns, some mushrooms, tomatoes, all goes together really well. That's because it's not Canadian maple syrup, says Hufflepuff. True. However, I'm not really a fan of sweet stuff. Like, I much prefer... I don't like what all the sugar does to your body. I just prefer savoury foods. I really prefer to enjoy, like, a bunch of savoury stuff. I don't need the sweet. And then if I have something that is sweet, usually you kind of know that it's not... Like, it's very rare that stuff is, like, really sweet and nutritionally good. Fruit is probably that crossover, right? I love some fruit. And that's sweet. But, you know, it's got all that fibre in it as well, and it balances out pretty well, so... Yeah. Right, where are we up to on the pictures? All right, so then we went to the Guggenheim. Okay. So, you know, we've come up the river, we've gone in and eaten, and then we go across to the Guggenheim, which is somewhere... Ah, there it is. Now this, if you're into art, probably be great. I really like art, but I'm not into it. A lot of art is something that I feel like I don't understand, but I appreciate that you can stand in front of pictures that people have painted and feel things and see things. And so this is a really interesting building because the inside is like circular. You know, I feel like we can make use of Google a little bit more. Like if I go up here and search Guggenheim, you might get this classic view of the inside. There it is. Like it's like a spiral case that you walk around all the way up to the top. Yeah, like, and they've got lots of different art on the different floors. And honestly, like, not a lot of it was that impressive. What they had on, I didn't really vibe with it. But the top floor was pretty cool. This artist's work was there, and I feel like these photos don't really kind of like do it justice. The colors felt so much more vibrant to stand in front of. And obviously there's a lot of detail to look at. But one of the cool things they did is they sort of brought the creative environment into the art a little bit more. There's all these like wires and strings going everywhere with little attachments of stuff like this. And what I loved was the use of the lamps, because you see a lot of sunsets and images of the sun in their work. But quite often it's actually just a bit of paper with a bright light shone on it. And it really does look like a sun. You almost don't sort of see the lamp at first, and you're like, okay, that's like, you know, a sunset or whatever. And then, oh no, wait, it's actually just a lamp shining on the paper. Really, really cool. Another, you know, really cool piece. I don't think I've actually got an image here that captures what was around this. I was trying to focus on these bits with my images a bit more, because if you come further back, you get a lot of people that are standing around inside the image. So behind all of this, there was like string going everywhere. There were these like ladders with projectors on them, and there was so much more animation that I can't show you in this, where there's like moving parts and like cameras and projectors and lights are like being moved across, and you know, they're not neatly arranged. They're sort of put together with some of these little tearing outs of like images that you've seen everywhere, like stapled on them. And it's quite hard to describe, but basically it kind of made it feel like the work area for putting together the image was also part of the art. And it was really different. So yeah, anyway, after that, we then walked down the road. I probably got something to eat. Oh no, I got something to eat later. I think I got halfway through here, I went down a couple of blocks and got another slice of pizza, a really good one from somewhere back over here. It was pepperoni, and sometimes when you get the pepperoni pizza, man, the amount of juice or oil that comes off of that thing is crazy. But yeah, you've heard me waffle about the food. This right here is the Met, which is... what does the Met stand for? You can even see it there, the Met. It's basically a massive collection of history, art, you know, sculptures, trinkets, all sorts of things. And this, like, I got around a lot of it, but it was humongous. It was the biggest museum that we've been to. And there wasn't an area in particular I focused on, maybe the modern art bit, but here's what I found in here that caught my attention. These are up in, I think, like a Chinese collection or somewhere from that part of the world. These are gemstones like earlier, except they have been beautifully crafted. Like, the luminosity of these is a little lost on the image. They're a little bit more resonant, but they have been gorgeously crafted, and it really caught my eye because I was loving those gemstones that we saw earlier, and now they've been turned into something else. This next one, I think, has more of the luminosity on display. Oh, look at that. That is just, whew. Like, you could take a moment to, like, really look at them and just have a little think, you know, and look at the details. Gosh, so good. Yeah, and there's like one more for you. And then into the modern art area. A lot of it not so great, and then occasionally something like this where I can really just appreciate the colour here. The colours are so pleasing and satisfying. A sort of mix of like sunset pastels, I would call that. And this was really nice. I don't need to know what the shapes and forms mean or represent. Like, it just feels very satisfying to look at. Another one, much darker piece right here. It's just really nice shading and, you know, like a chromatic feel to it. And the paint goes onto the frame as well, which was kind of cool. Then I got to see, who could tell me what that is? No, that's not a 5-year-old who's just made a mess. Excuse me. That's a masterpiece of modern art right there. That is a Jackson Pollock, yes. I really love Jackson Pollock. Now, I think Jackson Pollock is probably one of the better ways to explain modern art to people. Our world that we live in, we have so many fonts, shapes, visual designs around us. A lot of it you see in advertising, you see it in architecture, I don't know, band logos, album art. We see so much stuff that sometimes you don't realize that the origins of ideas have to come from somewhere. And so a lot of this, you know, cubism and art where they like deconstruct stuff and reassemble it in different ways, it's about like conceiving it and putting it out there into the world, and then later on maybe it becomes something a little different. I don't think Jackson Pollock has had quite like a resonation where now you see a little bit of this everywhere or something. But I think a good study would be typography. If you look at the history of different fonts and how they've changed over time, you can really see how art movements can influence things that now become very common. So like at some point in time, someone has to conceive doing something different. And in modern art, those tend to, you know, I didn't actually save any bad air quotes, or that's not the right way to talk about it. I didn't really save much of the stuff that I didn't enjoy, let's say. But even those, like, you can see how people are trying to just create new visuals and new ideas with what you can put in front of you. What I love about this, though, is just that when you understand how he created this, it's just an entirely different approach to painting. He doesn't have it up on a canvas, it's on the ground. He wanders over it with a bucket of paint and flicks and splashes, and it's like he's created a memory of motion, of how like it was all put together. And although it looks like complete chaos, it's like when you step out of it and realize how it was created, it says so much more. I really love that. Here's another cool painting that I saw in there. Loads of beautiful paintings, right? This one just really reminded me of like a Dungeon Synth album cover, you know? Grayscale it, make it look a bit dim and gloomy, and then it's like, you know, Sequestered Keep. The Eternal Dawn, or some, you know, some sort of Dungeon Synth-like artwork. Here's another one, right? Oh, jittery painting of a skull. Is it? Is it a skull? Or is it two women on a bed with a dog? You know? I thought it was kind of cool. Kind of cool. Yeah, what do we do after that? Oh, right, so then, right, okay, I got a couple of stories. I'm gonna waffle on a lot now because there's quite a lot I want to talk about next. After that, we went to watch the New York Red Bulls. On the way there, just about everything that could go wrong with our journey did. We had trouble getting our fare onto the ticket. And by the way, again, talking about friendly Americans, just people talking to us, helping us out in the line. Just so friendly. You wouldn't have that over here in the UK. If you're having trouble with your ticket, like, no one would talk to you or help you. Right? Oh, I need to sip. I've been talking so much. Anyway, we had some help getting our fare onto the ticket. It's a very kind lady. She explained us what to do and let us cut back in the queue. Actually, we let her cut back in the queue too. She sort of came back and went, "Oh, look, I'm running late. I went over here, I went over there. Is it all right if I cut back in?" And we were like, "Yeah, sure." I always feel like that. Like, whenever I've seen people cutting in a queue in a movie or something like that, it's always a hostile reaction to it. And I always think, if someone is honestly just trying to cut in queue because they really need to, like, get seen to or whatever, like, what they've got going on is probably more important than what you going on, right? I got no problem with someone coming up to me and being like, "Hey, can I cut in?" Because most of the time, I'm probably don't need to, like, get whatever I'm in queue for immediately, right? So I feel like if someone cuts in, I ain't got a problem with that. Like, you're probably doing it because you need to, right? Like, not everyone is trying to get, like, a leg up on someone else, or, you know? Anyway, bit of a tangent. Yeah, and then when we got to the grounds, I couldn't get in because I had a bag that was too big. I couldn't use their locker system because it was all done online, and I was locked out because I didn't have access to, like, the right bank account to do the transaction, yada yada yada, just being in a different country. And then it took, like, some guy had to come around, and he was like, "Oh, it's not my job to say if you can go in or not." Eventually they let us in. Then we had to walk all the way to the other side of the stadium, and, like, we literally got to our seats and sat down right as it was kicking off. It was just, you know, everything that could go wrong on our travels went wrong, even though we set off really early, and then we just got there on time. But when I was in the ground, okay, this image right here is really important. You can see they got the pride flags up. There was a lot of that throughout the city. In New York, they're celebrating Pride Month. Buildings are lit up with the pride flag. Sidewalks sometimes have the rainbows on it. And we're not talking about, like, big city establishment. You go into small places to eat, and there's pride flags up. Like, the city is celebrating pride. And it really kind of hit me because when I've seen this stuff, it's usually online, and I don't really, like, resonate with it in the same way when you see it online. Because, you know, like, some corporation changes their logo so there's, like, a pride flag. It honestly just feels like a hollow gesture. They're, like, jumping on sort of bandwagon when it comes on the corporate level. Obviously, corporations are made full of people, and some of those people are inside advocating for it. But it just doesn't hit. But when you see it on a more personal level, it really does. And earlier, I mentioned about how much I enjoyed the atmosphere in the Yankees Stadium. Now, going and watching a game of football, a sport that I appreciate way more, the atmosphere, again, was so friendly. Everyone's cheering. You know, when the other side make a foul, there's not a lot of booing. There's no taunting. Over here in the UK, if you go to a football match, right, you will hear so much swearing, effing off. It feels like most of the audience is, like, angry old men. And like, you know, you score, or your team scores a goal, and it's like, "Ooh, are ya? Your team's effing this, your team's effing that." Like, oh god, like, I hate it. The atmosphere over here is naff. It's not family friendly. It's not friendly for most people. It's hostile. Like, I can't stand it. Over here, it couldn't have been further from. Down here, you'll see that there's some pride flags, right? This section down here is like the ultras that they have in Europe. Except at the Red Bulls, they're flying pride flags. You see people all over the stadium wearing pride shirts, or, like, equivalent of, like, I think they made a bunch of special pride kits where they've sort of weaved in the rainbow into the kit. And it was so inclusive and so welcoming, and it sort of said, like, you know, everyone's welcome here. You looked around, there were families enjoying the atmosphere, and, you know, no groups of aggros standing around getting annoyed and gobbing off their team when they're not playing well. It was all, like, upbeat, positive. And I was just like, oh man, I wish it was like this over here, because it's just awful in England. I go to football sometimes with my nephew, and I get really like, he's such a lovely little lad with a bright spirit, and I get really worried that all of this like the aggro in football might like leak in, because you just hear chants about how, you know, we hate this team, we hate that team, or whatever, and it's yeah. X should go watch college American football in the South. Maybe it's not the same in the South, but anyway, here it was great, and I loved the inclusivity message and the atmosphere that they had, and it felt so much more real to see it in person in the city, and I just thought it was such a great like message and a place to do it. Like sports is really cool, because over here the pride flag stuff feels really like, it feels really corporate, sort of top down, because you'll see it in places in a football match, like on a shirt, maybe like the armband, or there'll be some like flag hanging somewhere on the side, or maybe Sky Sports or wherever you're watching it, BT Sports will have a little pride thing somewhere, but you don't see it in the audience. You really don't see people coming out and supporting that. And it's a real shame that they don't. But this just illuminated to me the difference between over there and over here. You know? Right, I'm trying to drag in another image now. So, after that, this was like the longest day. This was like a crazy long day. We decided to get the Staten Island ferry again to see the city lit up at night. Unfortunately, my images weren't so great, but that right there is a really good capture. And when I drove around the city on the tour bus at night, it was like this. This I think is really actually a pretty balanced image. Maybe a little overexposure from the light. I think I've messed around with some of the settings on my phone trying to get it to be a little better at this point. Oh, and something I forgot to mention earlier. Okay, you see how far away Lady Liberty is here? Clearly some problems with the light exposure. I think one of the images I shared earlier, we were a lot closer, because when we took that extra boat that went up the Hudson River, they pulled in really close, like I don't know, really close, somewhere out where my mouse is, somewhere around here. And apparently they very rarely get to do that, so we got really lucky and we got to get close without going directly to the island. So a little something else that happened. That's not really like a bit of advice, because you know, like it happens rarely. Oh yeah, also with that being a really long day at the football, I had some chicken and chips, and like it was late and I told myself I'm done eating for the day, but I was also really knackered and I just gave in. I was just like, I really just want to eat. So I went and got some chicken and chips, and it felt so good. It felt so good. Yeah, it's made me think a little bit about my like routine and calorie counting all the time and stuff, and I feel like sometimes you can trust your gut a little bit more, you know. Sometimes you do just know you need to eat something. So I'm gonna try and keep that in my mind. Anyway, the next day, okay, this day was awesome, because this right here used to be a railway, right? This is the High Line, one of the highest rated things you can do in New York City. It starts somewhere down in this area. It's one of those rails before the metro went underground that used to run above ground. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping it will like be obvious as we're up here. Maybe it starts a little further. It ends as you get to these big buildings, so maybe we'll do it that way. There it is. Oh, I can see it. I walked along all of this. It was beautiful, the whole trip. Yep. Yeah, there it is. Can you see it? Do you know what? I am so stoked for City Skylines 2 after this trip. Later in the year, I'm going to make a city, and I am going to use New York City as inspiration. But what I want to do with that game is I want to create a city that has a story. You know? Can you see it now? So I was standing down here, yeah, pointing up there, yeah. Yeah, walked across this thing, right? I mean, look at where it goes. I think my next photo is literally that view. Yeah. Yeah, look at this. You know? And like, you can turn to the side and see just so many views. Look at that. Wow. Just... And this is the thing. It's like we can appreciate skyscrapers and big buildings, but it's massive and it's everywhere. And it's so interesting. And every building's probably got like a really interesting story. What is that building down? Is that the Rockefeller Center? No, the top looks a little different. I don't know what that building is, but that looked really interesting. And again, like, just these views, man, they're just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And that's when you reach the end of the line at Hudson Yards. There's a shopping center there with this very interesting walkable frame, but unfortunately it was closed when we went in. So if I go up here, we'll see that, like following the High Line, you know, all down these streets. There it is, that thing right there. So you can walk around it when it's open, but it's temporarily closed. So after that, we kind of head off up to the Intrepid over here. Oh, I'm getting some lag. There we go. Yeah, just views, views, views. That right there, you can't quite see it, is a cathedral that we talked about very early on in the stream. If this traffic light weren't here, that'd be a really great picture. The next one has even more traffic lights, so you can see a bit more of the cathedral. Pretty cool. And then we arrive at the Intrepid. We got some food on the way as well. It was a deli. I had a chicken panini. It wasn't so great. And I also had a smoothie that was like raspberries, blueberries, whey protein powder, and then it had peanut butter in it. And I did not know that peanut butter goes so nice with those things, right? But then it all made sense. I love peanut butter and jam in a sandwich, right? That kind of thing. So it makes sense that they fit together in a smoothie. But I'm going to enjoy that now. I'm going to have some smoothies with peanut butter in, you know? The US Intrepid was a good time, says Original Savok. It really was. This is, I think, if you are somewhat intrigued by military-related things. Like, my interest in military is probably more engineering than conflict. And my interest in the conflict side of military stuff is more of like how significant those events are on the world. World War II and 1, for example, you know, and the significance of such things. But yeah, there's just a lot of like military aircraft on top of the aircraft carrier. Spoke to some really nice veterans there who told us about their service on similar vessels and various things about how it works. Like the deck of the Intrepid was made out of wood, so that it was light enough that it didn't need support beams. And I didn't know this about aircraft carriers before, but now it makes a lot of sense. They have like an elevator on the side because they store more airplanes on the inside level. You know, it just sounds so obvious, but like I didn't learn that until I was there. I'm closing some of these images, by the way. When I add them to the browser, they just create tons of tabs. So I'm doing a little cleanup. Cleaning it all up, you get a little flashback. Right, we don't need that one anymore. And these either. Cool. I love this, by the way. This is just such a great excuse for me to sort of really reinforce my memories. So thanks for hanging out with me today. It's appreciated. By the way, we had 5 minutes ago a noise in the ear from Goodness. 2 months, 3 months even, saying, been loving this stream. Glad you had a wonderful time here in the US. Oh yes, I would love to come back to the US. I think when I come back, if I can come back, I think what would make sense for me to do is maybe land up here in Boston. Is this Boston? That's Providence. Somewhere north of New York there's Boston, right? Maybe it's not that far away. But like go... I feel like Boston is one that would show up, right? Like maybe bounce from Boston to New York and then down to Philadelphia and then like Washington to the capital. Oh, that seems so good now, doesn't it? Like Boston, New York, Philadelphia and Washington. And maybe stop off in Baltimore if they've got like the Museum of the Wire or something. In fact, you know, like I'm quite intrigued by like dense cities now. I feel like New York has opened my eyes up to how interesting the density of cities are. Maybe there's like a Museum of Baltimore and you learn about the history of it. That would be cool. But yeah, then come down to Washington and then maybe get out there and explore some of the great American continent and all of its natural beauty. Get away from the cities. I don't know. Who knows? DC is awesome for history buffs. Hey, I'm I'm a bit of a history buff, I guess you could say. I like that channel on YouTube, History Buffs. Awesome channel. Definitely go to a Bruins game if I go to Boston. Hey, I would love to watch all the different sports they have out there. Unfortunately, when I went to New York, it wasn't the season for American football or for basketball. Maybe some ice hockey, as Doc M says. Ice hockey? Oh, dang. Yeah, so after that, we went back. I had chimichams. That's what I wrote down, but I'm pretty sure I've got this wrong. Let's type in chimichams. Right, it's a Mexican dish. That's not chimichams. This is something K-pop. What's this dish called? Someone in chat help me out. It's a Mexican. Chimichanga. Okay. I had chimichanga. This is absolutely what I had right here. I had this with rice and beans, okay? Apparently, I picked the really hot salsa with jalapenos in. The guy was telling me, oh, I can't do it mild. It's got jalapenos in. But I ate it as if it didn't have anything hot in it at all. Like, I was waiting for this hot to kick me and it never did. So I don't know what happened there, but maybe I just have a tolerance for spice. Anyway, this meal filled me up like I've never been felt up. And honestly, after I had this one meal, I kind of didn't feel like eating much. Like, I felt kind of fooded out, which is really weird because, like, I knew I wasn't eating enough, right? Like, you're having these big energetic days going around, walking all day, and I wasn't feeling that enthusiastic about food after I ate this. This was amazing, proper awesome Mexican food. We went into this little place. It wasn't a chain. They had the pride banners up, like I mentioned. When you go into the authentic places, you see that, like, that inclusivity, that representation coming from the actual people. That's what I liked a lot. Like, again, over here, you see it. It feels very corporate. Over there, in the city, you see it at the street level, and it means so much more seeing it that way. But yeah, the people there were, like, I'm assuming Mexican. They had, like, the accent, the look, or whatever, but it felt very authentic. Like someone's a passionate cook for their type of food. And the guy was very friendly. He was like, "Yeah, do you enjoy it?" I was like, "Yeah, for sure." And he's like, "You come back tomorrow?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, of course I will." And I'm thinking, "Oh, I'm going home, going home soon. Otherwise, I would." So yeah, after that, me and my dad went to the Museum of Illusions. And if you're in New York City, go to this attraction if you are in any way interested in ye old illusions, because I went there kind of thinking, yeah, I know about this, I've seen illusions and stuff, but there was so much fascinating stuff. Even the things I already known that I saw in there, it was really nice to experience it in a museum environment. You know, like sometimes you're talking to the people around you about the illusions as well. It was really cool. And this was one of the last things. It's like a pentagon. I mean, pentagon is the flat shape, so like a cube to a square, a pentagon to whatever this was, and like it's a one-way mirror, so you look in and you don't see your reflection, but all these lights change and it's just amazing. But probably not the most amazing thing there, and of some of the other things I could have shared with you, I got pictures of me and my dad, and like, you know, they're personal. I don't share that sort of stuff, but you can get some really cool snaps in there and do some really cool things with like mirrors and perception, and really cool. On the way back from that, I also picked up my little merch. I got myself a New York Yankees hat, and my little I Heart New York mug, which is cool. And then the next day I got to work out again, just because had time in the morning, got up early, had some waffles and omelets and sausage from the hotel. And then we went back to the Museum of the Native American, and I think, did I get a snap? I got a snap. Not too many snaps from this day. This is the inside of it. This place is free, as I mentioned earlier. I'd recommend when you come in to read these signs around the outside here. They are the history of Native American service in various wars and conflicts over time. And it's really interesting to see. This is one of those things about America that I've fought several times before. But, you know, when you're reading these experiences, sometimes it just hits you again and you're like, America's such a fascinating country because the Native Americans have an unusually high sign-up rate for their demographic to the the military to serve for their country. And you might think of it as like, well, these are the people that invaded and took away your lands and disrupted your communities, and yet they have the highest volunteer rate among many demographics. It's a similar thing to like slavery and the civil rights movement. It wasn't to like overthrow and destroy the American ideal, it was to become a part of it. I think maybe perhaps the original ideas that the country was founded on, if you look at that in perhaps a mythic way, because some people see the world as having, I guess, like a capitalist narrative to which everything yields to. But, if you believe in that kind of mythos or not, it's a bit of an oxymoron, this like freedom of man idea, when you have slavery at the same time. Yet, as those things have been conquered over time and tore apart, and we still live with the after effects of that, like, people wanted to be a part of the American dream, as opposed to seeing it as like the oppression that they needed to destroy. Not sure I'm getting my words right here, but maybe that makes sense. So like seeing that again with Native Americans, I'm like, that is fascinating. Really fascinating. Like if you just read that they had the lowest, 1% sign up rate or something, you'd be like, yeah, of course. Like, you don't need to explain it to me. But then when it's like they got the highest, it's like, oh, well, what's behind that? What's the meaning? And the suggestions that I picked up on in here were that perhaps they were related to the culture, that their war was treated differently, and conflict between tribes was maybe for them to experience it at that time was less of how we might think about fighting and conflict now. Maybe it's more of a cultural thing, and today we like frown upon it or see it as an unfavorable. I don't know. Like we're very conflict averse. Maybe they embraced that more. Who knows? It just fascinating to think about. And yeah, it got me thinking about that American ideal again. But anyway, walked past Wall Street again. Went into a little, like, you go down the steps underground pizza place. Had a classic big slice of pepperoni pizza. Another great slice of American pizza. Really good. Got another smoothie from around the corner in another shop, and it was awful. I got like a chocolate and peanut butter smoothie, and it just did not taste nice. I don't know what was up with that. I think we looked at an image of that further. So the other day I like walked down this street, went past Wall Street. Today we came from the other direction, walked down here, turned around, and then again it's just another one of those viewpoints where you're like, wow, and look at that, just beautiful architecture among old and modern, and so many views like that. So many views. Yeah, so we were going to go visit a monument, but it was closed. It was being renovated. It was somewhere down here. And then we got on the metro and actually headed to that place, the Tenement Museum. Now, what this is a preservation of what life was like in New York at different points in time. So these three buildings have been, I think, preserved with the apartments intact, and they've gotten in contact with people that used to live there. They've learned about their stories, and you get to walk around with a guide who tells you about the history, lets you ask questions, and you get to like have this feeling of like maybe what it was like to live inside New York 50, 60, 70 years ago. Really great experience. They offer multiple different tours, and if I were in the city for longer, I would have come back here and done a couple more. Absolutely loved it. Also, this building across the road, the optical one, has like been owned and been in the city. I think since it like opened, it's like a really old shop. It's not part of a chain. I think it was related to the family that lived in this block, because there were many, and we went on a tour about two specific families, and you get to go inside the apartments, and they've been preserved as if it was like the 1960s or 50s, so that kind of preservation act, which was, again, just another way to connect with the city. There was a lot of that. From here, we walked down the street over here through this park, got some coffee with this guy that I mentioned earlier. Looked like Scar, yet had this extremely calming aurora about them. It's the sort of person where it's like you could imagine someone coming into the shop masked up with a gun. Hand over all the money, and they'd just be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir, you can't do that here." Just no bead of sweat, just completely chill. Then we went into Chinatown. Now I did take some pictures of Chinatown, but it had a lot of people in it. You might have noticed that a lot of the pictures I've been sharing didn't have that many people in. Like, I don't know. I just think it's like a bit weird to have other people in your photos. Now, that's fine when they're your personal ones, but like when you're sharing them as a content creator, I don't know. I just decided to leave those ones out. So Chinatown was really rich and bustling with colour and activity on a different feel. I'm not sure though if I'm getting the right spot or area, because some of the streets you go down and they've just got decorations and signs that are just, you know, very oriental and give you that different feeling. And we went into a really interesting little restaurant to eat here, and I really wish I'd read more reviews about it, because it was basically you go down some stairs, right? And then you go into this dingy little room where the walls are covered with dollar bills that people have signed and pictures and just random stuff stuck onto the walls. It looks like it's been there since the 80s. It's a bit gritty, a bit grimy, but you know, the diner's clean. And we got some Chinese food. And here's the thing. The portion size was massive. Massive. Like, when they started bringing them out, I was like, uh-oh. Like, if I'd have known, we could have gone in there and ordered, like, maybe one dish with some chicken, some meat, and then maybe 3 or 4 sides to share. But instead, we all just got this massive mound of food shoved in front of us, and everyone's like, uh-oh, can't eat all of this. That was the first time that actually happened. When I went to America as a kid, I remember ordering, like, burger and chips at a restaurant, and when it came out, I immediately, like, didn't feel hungry because of how big it was. I just looked at it and I was like, I can't eat all of this. This is like too much food. What's going on? That was the only time I really experienced that. Portion sizes in New York, pretty decent, I'd say. I mean, the food's a bit on the pricey side, but portions were decent. Did you have the chance to eat at Cat's Deli? Says Randy Nicole. There were so many delis that I heard raved about that I just would pick them off of the map when I could go into them. I wasn't going to do too much traveling for a specific deli that had been mentioned online, purely because everywhere I went it would be some other deli, and the general feeling I got was that delis all over the city are pretty darn good. The one place I wanted to go to specifically was Billy's Hot Dog Cart up in Central Park, but unfortunately didn't get round to that one. Cats is like the old famous one. Yeah, I might have come across it, but again, like when it was delis that I was learning about, it was pretty much like everyone was saying this one's the best, that one's the best. It just sounded like all the delis were good, and of the ones that I went into, most of them, I went into like 3 or 4. They were pretty good. So yeah, after the Tenements game, we went and watched Tears for Fears at Madison Square Garden. It's been a long time since I went to a live show for music. And all I can say, man, it really hit me again how much I love that feeling of being in the crowd and hearing some songs that you love, connecting with the music. It just, it let me really let loose. I was singing, you know, cheering along, absolutely loving it. Tears for Fears are amazing. Some bands I do feel like, you know, you want to see some bands in their prime, really. Like, I've seen Metallica a whole bunch of times, but I would have loved to have seen Metallica in like the mid-early 90s or you know, late 80s. Tears for Fears, another one like those where it was utterly fantastic, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you kind of want to see a band in their prime. But either way, you know, just absolutely loved it, connected with it. And then that night, I could not sleep because my mind was so turned on from the music. I was thinking about all the things that I am inspired by. Or inspired to do, you know. I've got some music that I want to write, couldn't get that out of my head. If there's a video I want to make, couldn't stop thinking about it. My mind was in pure creativity mode, and I'm just laying there trying to fall asleep, and I can't. So that night, I think I got about 3 hours of sleep tops, maybe less. And this is the day before we leave, so the next morning I'm like feeling a bit ropey. Not too bad though. I had some waffle and eggs for breakfast again. Then we had to get packed, and that's when we headed over to the Rockefeller Center. Let me bring that up on the screen. So this is one of the buildings. The Rockefeller Center is a complex of buildings, and you should absolutely do this and do the tour because the history of the place is fascinating. I kind of wished our tour guide divulged more information about it because he seemed knowledgeable, but I didn't know what questions to ask, which is sometimes the problem. So this Radio City place was like a theatre that broke many records when it was first built. It was absolutely massive. And yeah, it's part of a complex of these sandstone Art Deco buildings, and you get walked around them. You also get to go up to the top. They call it Top of the Rock. As you can see, the clouds made the view a little more obscured on this day, but it was still great to go. We really wanted to go up there when the weather was clear, but the timing didn't quite work out. By the way, that is the only window washer I spotted on any skyscraper, right? That on the left is Trump Tower, I believe. Or at least it's in the corner. Actually, no, I think it's further across. It's in the corner of Central Park, you know. Just mentioning it because Trump has his history with, you know, developing buildings and whatnot in New York City. And so you go around, there's like a Trump Plaza or a Trump building, and then there's the Trump Tower, something like that. In my opinion, Top of the Rock gives the best view of the New York skyline. Yeah, if I'd have seen this on a clear day, I would have probably agreed. I think the one thing it didn't have that the One Tower Observatory has is this view down direct avenues. You can sort of see the street and traffic moving through it. At the Rock, it doesn't quite line up like that. You tend to sort of see little clusters of activity at the very bottom. This is probably a great example of what I'm talking about, actually, because if I try and, like, your angles are always at an angle, right? So you see a little bit of street over here, but then it's behind buildings again. So yeah, so like the other one has that going for it. But, you know, you can do both. You can do both, which is cool. Here is a view of that building from down below. You see that sign, observation deck? That's how you get in. You go up to the top. It's quite incredible up there. They have a famous Christmas show, says Randy Nicole. Yeah, so this area is where a lot of like TV stuff is filmed. I think Fox News filmed there. Like, is it NBC, ABC? These American broadcasting networks. They have like The Daily Show, whatever it's called, those famous American ones, and they film that stuff there. And when we walked past, they were filming some sort of morning show, and they had the windows open. So if ever you've seen something, oh my god, I just remembered, Carson Daly with TRL Live. That was in New York City, right? I'm pretty sure it's down on Times Square, and I walked past the building where they used to shoot that. So it's one of those things where, like, out the window you can see people who have come by to watch the show being filmed, and they wave and whatnot. That's a very, like, American tradition to do things like that. That's the sort of place where this happens. And again, like, at so many different points, I start to realize there's stuff about this city that you just don't know to ask, which is, like, what about, like, the cultural events that happen? Because around here they were talking about how Jimmy Fallon and other famous people that have been on the telly with those shows, they like drink in the local bars, and apparently one of the local bars has got a special lighting system to tell the different shifts that go in there to drink when they have to come back to the studio, so they don't lose track of time. And you know, there's these like other layers of like celebrity and whatnot. Like, they say that you might see a celebrity when you're going around, you know, casually walking the streets of New York, because they live there too. I didn't see any, by the way. I didn't. Not that I know loads of celebrities, but I certainly didn't see any famous movie actors. But there's always a chance, right? And so there's that kind of layer too. And the Rockefeller Center has just these incredible art pieces laid out all around. And this particular one lines up with this. It lines up in a way when you're standing behind it that the cross is in the center, and I think that's St. Patrick's Cathedral. Just absolutely incredible. And then there's an ice rink, and it has this golden statue in front of it as well. Really just amazing, amazing place. Let's have a look. Right, it's where MTV was filmed. Oh, okay, did I get it right? Let's go look at Times Square and see if it'll actually pop out here on them. It probably won't unless I get in the street view. Where's the bit where they join? Is this it? This looks like it, yeah. So, walking down here, it was basically one of these buildings on the side just had like an opening to it, like windows, where I was like, that's like, maybe it's this one here. It could quite easily be that one. Not saying it is, just that's the kind of thing. It has the windows instead of a big screen, and it kind of looked like, as soon as I looked at it, I was like, TRL. Carlson Daly used to watch that when I was a kid. Yeah, we got some American, or should I say New York cheesecake and key lime pie from the Rockefeller Center. On one of the buildings, they had some tenants that refused to move. And so one of those big buildings has two of the old buildings at the front, down on the bottom. And it was all right, but to me, it was basically just pudding. As soon as I was like eating that super sweet stuff, it was just like, a lot of sweet stuff just kind of tastes the same to me. So I thought it was okay. Glad I tried it. I had a peanut butter and chocolate brownie cookie, which was brownie, which was kind of all right, but yeah. And then I had a slice of Hawaiian pizza, which, yeah. Oh yeah, there was another slice out at one point. I tried barbecue chicken somewhere, and it was really not that good. And the Hawaiian pizza was like decent for Hawaiian. But I think the best New York pizza has to have the tomato sauce in it. That seems to be the thing. There's something in that sauce that they're getting right, because the barbecue did not taste that good, and the Hawaiian one didn't really have any tomato in it. So anyway, so after that, you know, we had to set off, and a younger me would have really struggled with the feelings, you know, the sadness, but I don't get that anymore. I have a different mindset now. I like focus on the appreciation of having the opportunity to go and knowing that I made the most of it. And, you know, hey, there'll be more adventures in the future, you know. So it's, yeah, I was ready to kind of get back into it. The thing was, though, like, after having 3 hours of sleep, I was starting to worry a bit, because on the plane, right, we're leaving late in the day. So this is like an 8-day trip. Day 1, you arrive early because of that flight over with the time change. Day 8, you leave late, but then the hours go forward by 5. So as you're heading back over to the UK, somewhere over here, can I find it? Am I going like totally wrong direction? The world is really big. Where are we? Oh my god, it's all the way over here. Jeez. Oh no! The UK's upside down. What on earth will we do now? Doesn't make any sense. God. Which way is up and down in space anyway? Good old London. I need to go here soon and compare it to New York City. As you'll see, you know, not a lot of London is built up like New York City is. And the road layout is not a grid. And this leads to, like, look at the colour of the river. Ugh. This leads to, like, you know, bad air quality. I think it's maybe one of the reasons why somewhere like London has perhaps fallen behind somewhere like New York in ways, is because of that sprawl as opposed to that, like, vertical density. That's, I mean, I'm thinking in terms of like economic output now. So yeah, anyway, let's get back on track. So the plane, I could not sleep on it properly. I had this weird period that lasted about an hour and a half of like feeling like I'm constantly being woken up by noises and things going on around me. And then I was in such a like, oh, kind of state when we had to start getting out and moving. And, you know, get off the plane, drive back, and it's basically like 9 in the morning when we get home. And like, I got a whole day ahead of me, and all I want to do is sleep. So I really like stuck it out, and I went to bed at 9, and I slept for 12 hours straight. And do you want to know what woke me up? It was not an alarm clock. It was the opposite of an alarm clock. It was my drone that I play to go to sleep to. It's a 12-hour video on YouTube. It was the drone ending that woke me up. All of a sudden, I think I must have been in a very like sleepy but awake state where you don't quite realize that you're waking up yet or something. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, the drone stopped. Oh, I'm awake. You know? And then it was like, I'm going to lay here for 3 minutes because I feel tired, and like half an hour goes by. It's been like that. So I reckon I'm going to have another good night of sleep tonight. And and then be back to normal. But I felt pretty like rough in terms of energy yesterday, but I got through it, and I'm kind of happy for it. And I'm back, and I'm looking forward to getting back into the groove. Gonna work out tomorrow. Gonna start making a video soon, and just enjoy, the fact that I had just an amazing trip. I feel so blessed to have gone on this, which, as I will say, is thanks to all of you too. Having a community that supports me, and having people here watching that have helped make this possible, because as a YouTuber, I can now, at this point in my life, afford to go on trips and go on holidays a couple of times a year, which I'm so blessed and thankful for, because not everyone gets to do that. And so it's a real privilege to be able to go and enjoy things like this. Gonna probably leave you with a random fact that just popped into my head. One of the reasons that the city got settled here and started is because it has a unique property. It is a bay within a bay. So a bay is a place for trade and ships to land and come and go. But the reason they like this is because as you come in here, you have this secondary bay area. And supposedly that's what makes this such a prosperous place to settle up and bring people in and create new industry and whatnot. And then, over the years, it's probably transformed a lot from an industrial area to a commercial and financial place and a touristy place as well. Thank you for all the lovely messages in chat. Really appreciate it. My voice is absolutely like, wow, I haven't done this for a while, So, I really feel like I got all of that off my chest. So, thank you so much for sticking around and listening. I hope it was of value to you in some way. If you plan on going to New York, hopefully some of those tips that I talked about will help you out. Because I totally recommend it. It was really, really stunning. Do your research before you go. Have a plan. There'll be no shortage of stuff to do and see in the city. And part of it is just being there, I think I kind of went with this idea of like, gonna see that thing, gonna see this thing. And then I got there and I was like, oh, just being here is amazing too. So, just wonderful. You'll probably hear me waffle about it from time to time in a stream now. Like, I really did love this place. It was terrific. And, I feel like I'm all warmed up. I'm a streamer again. I got back into it. I've still got it. I've been away for over a week, but I've still got it. I plan on streaming again, possibly tomorrow, if I'm in the right frame of mind. I want to start a new creative project, in Minecraft, doing some building, and I just kind of need to get my bearings on it. And if I get the time to do that tomorrow, then that'll be cool. So I got a raid here for you. Interestingly, Sly Slime is playing GeoGuessr, which I feel is like possibly one of the closest things that I could get to right now on my... Oh, you can all still see my screen, can't you, as I close all of this? I should probably switch to that. Let's see. Right. Sly Slime's playing GeoGuessr. That feels just, strangely appropriate. So, I'll send you over there. That's it. Hopefully I'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.